welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and we are watching the 1993 Menendez brothers trial. They were on trial for the homicide of their parents, who turned out to be really terrible people, as we're finding out through this trial. There's a reason why they did what they did. And the case, the problem, the question, the conundrum with this trial is, were the boys acting in self-defense when they took their parents' life, or were they a bunch of, as the media portrayed it, a bunch of greedy little rich kids that just wanted their inheritance? And as we watched in the last part, we're on Marta Cano part two. So in part one, this is the aunt of the boys. She is Jose's sister. She had some very troubling and concerning things to say about Jose and the way he treated his kids. She saw it with her own eyes. She had some questioning about his parenting all throughout growing up. The boys, she had boys in similar ages, so they were all always together. And she would see the way that Jose would interact with his boys, and there were just things that he did that just weren't normal parent son interaction. And the way that he spoke down to his boys and screamed and yelled at them when they were, like, for no reason. He's got some anger issues. We also found out that Kitty's got some issues too. I think she's got some mental health issues, but I don't want to diagnose. I just think that she has something that perhaps what was going on in that house exacerbated her mental illness, and that is part of the problem. Plus, I'm sure she wasn't getting the proper treatment for it, especially if she was going to Dr. Oziel, because as we know, he was something else, and he lost his license shortly thereafter. So, if you're unaware, Dr. Oziel was the psychiatrist that treated Eric, and Eric actually confessed to him about the crime. So, I guess that's a good summary of where we're at now. We're gonna hop right into Marta Cano's part two. We're picking up right where we left off. And away we go.
All right, in the trial, we have both juries back in court. Good morning to you all.
Remember, we left on the voir dire last when she was testifying about things that more things that she saw about the boys growing up. So we're going to see now what the judge lets in front of the jury, because the jury is back in the room.
And unfortunately, we had a delay in the sheriff's transportation this morning, which got us a little bit late in getting started, but we're now ready to proceed. Occasionally, those things happen. It's not the fault of anybody here. It's just occasionally that things like that do happen. But we're now ready to proceed, and we had a witness on the witness stand. Where is she?
She's in the hallway here.
All right, if you would get her, please. Would you state your name again for the record?
Sure. Marta, M-A-R-T-A, Menendez, Cano, C-A-N-O.
All right, further direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to go back with you for a moment to 1972 when you stayed in Muncie. Okay.
Yes.
During your visit there, did you and your sister-in-law, Kitty Menendez, take some children to a shopping mall?
Yes, we did.
And who were the children that were on that trip?
I believe I had Marta and Eileen with me, and Eric and Lyle.
Marta and Eileen are your two oldest daughters?
That is correct.
And did something unusual occur during the course of that shopping trip at the mall?
Yes, it did.
And would you tell us what happened?
The boys were not holding hands with us like I had my two girls at the time, and I mentioned to Kitty, why don't you hold hands? Oh, no, they would be fine. And they were running all over the store, destroying all the dresses. And then all of a sudden, I didn't see Eric and Lyle anymore. And I said, Kitty, where's Eric? Where's Lyle? I said, oh, don't worry about it. They will be fine.
Let me stop you for a moment. At this time in 1972, Eric was 2 and Lyle was going on 5?
That's right.
Okay, go on.
Marta tried, as a matter of fact, to hold him, but there was no way. I mean, he was used to being wild on the store, so she couldn't hold him.
Marta, by that you mean your
I'm
oldest
sorry,
daughter?
Marta, my eldest daughter.
And at that time, she was known by her nickname Martika?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you tell us now you don't see Eric or Lyle, is that correct?
That's correct. And I
Just let me ask a question. Do you go looking for them?
I wanted to, but Kitty told me not to worry about it, that they were fine, that they knew what to do if they got lost.
And subsequently to that, did you hear anything over the public address system?
Yes,
Just answer one question at a time.
Sorry.
Okay. And what did you hear over the public address system?
I heard Kitty being called, Mrs. Menendez, to go to the information booth to pick up her children.
And that's what the message was on and so did she then go and pick up the children?
No, she did not.
Did she say anything?
Yes, I said first.
Did you say something to her first?
Yes, I said, oh, Kitty, they found the boys. And then she went ahead and said to me, oh, great, we know where they are, so we can keep on shopping.
And did she keep on shopping?
Yes, she did.
And how long after the announcement that the children were at the information booth was it before she went and got them?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh my God.
Now, was this the only time that something like this occurred where the children got lost while shopping?
No, it wasn't.
And was there another occasion about 3 years later?
Yes.
And do you recall where this took place? Was it the same mall in Muncie or another mall?
No, it was a very large mall that she took me that had escalators and all kinds of.
I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. You lose your kids and you're like, oh, they're fine. They're at information. Let them watch them for an hour. Are you kidding me? Like, what?
I don't know where it was, but it was somewhere upstate New York.
Okay, because they were still living in Muncie at that time?
That's right.
And on this occasion, Eric was 5 and Lyle was about 8?
That's right.
And what happened on this occasion?
Same thing. I was alone with Kitty and the 2 boys. And
Did you have any of your girls with you? Or was it
no,
just...
I did not at the time. I don't think so.
And at some point while you were shopping, the boys disappeared?
They were always running around loose. I mean, that was part of the behavior, normal behavior. And all of a sudden, again, I couldn't rest not seeing the boys. And all of a sudden, I didn't see them. And I said, Kitty, where are the boys? And again, she's just said to me, don't worry, Marta, they'll be fine. They're big guys. They know what they're doing.
Okay, and was there some period of time later when there was again some indication that the boys had been located or someone had
Yes.
them? And on this occasion, did she go and get them right away?
No, she did not. But I had it, and I went to meet the boys. I told her I would wait for her in the information booth.
So she had indicated that she wanted to continue to shop again?
She continued. She was about 2 hours that time because I went myself, so she was not worried.
Now, I want to talk to you. You said that went out and about with the...
In part one, we heard that they were out shopping, and I can't remember if that's a voir dire or not, but they went out shopping, Mrs. Menendez and Marta Cano.
boys. They were running around. When...
Whoops. Cano, right? I don't know. I think it's Cano. She said in part one that they were out shoe shopping and the boys were running around and playing and getting a little rough, and Eric fell and cut his head and had, I think, was it his head? He cut himself and he needed stitches. But the mother just continued to shop for another hour or so before, she had to go check out her shoes and, continue shopping after her son injures himself to the point of needing stitches. She's just like, no worries, no problem. Let me just keep shopping.
They were in their own home. Were they running around wild the way they would when they were out shopping?
No, they were not.
Also, staying with 1972 for a moment, during that entire week that you stayed at the Menendez home, I believe I showed you a photograph, a family photograph, and in that photograph, Eric is sitting on his mother's lap. Correct?
That's correct.
Apart from when that photograph was taken, did you, at any time during that week, see Kitty holding Eric?
No.
Or picking him up?
No. Neither Lyle.
The mother nor the father, Kitty and Jose, neither one of them were affectionate with the boys. And that's coming to light now. Everyone that has interacted with the family is pretty much saying the same things. They're corroborating the same testimony. Jose was very angry. He talked to them very aggressively. He talked down to them. He sat them down and talked to them for like 45 minutes at a time, where they just sat there still and didn't react. So there were lectures, very strong lectures, I guess you would say, by the person who would hurt them if they didn't do what he said, or the thing, if he was giving them specific instructions or asking them to act a certain way and they weren't in those lectures, then he would punish them, probably violently, physically, who knows in what ways, because he was not an all right man.
Did she have either of the children ever near her when she was sitting and talking to adults? Did she ever have the children sitting next to her?
No.
Now, you have described some incidents in which you saw your brother being critical or being hostile towards the children. Did you ever see any incidents where Kitty was angry or hostile towards the children?
Yes, many of them.
And what was the typical way, based on your experience over the years, of her demonstrating her anger or hostility towards the boys?
Well, she will go.
Was it always, did she always have the same way of demonstrating anger?
Yes.
And what was that method?
She would all of a sudden get very violent and throw things and bang things and scream at the kids and pick them up by an arm, just like Jose used to do, and shake them and throw them and send them to their room.
So she was just as physically violent with the boys as Jose was, apparently. Or at least, if not as violent, she contributed to some of that physical mistreatment of the boys.
Did you ever hear her calling either Lyle or Eric?
Your mom's supposed to protect you from these things. She's not supposed to let your little innocence get destroyed by even if it is your father. They're supposed to protect you. I don't understand how is it just that Kitty and Jose were just like a terrible mix together? Like they both were just abusive personality types? How does that happen? Like how do two people like that come together? I'm curious about that. And how do they just start acting that way and the one approves of the other's actions of how they're mistreating the kids and no one says anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, how did these two even come together? Because I just don't get it. It's like a horrible mix of one bad, psycho, angry, abusive father, and then a not mentally stable, abusive mother. So these boys didn't have a shot in life. They just didn't. With growing up in the household that they had, they didn't have a chance.
Names?
Yes.
And what names do you recall her most frequently using?
Idiot, stupid, clumsy.
And would these outbursts of hers come on gradually? I mean, could you see the steam building, or would she just blow?
No, that's the difference with Jose. She just all of a sudden she was talking to me, and all of a sudden she would just raged out of nowhere.
So, with your brother, was it more predictable? Could you see it coming?
Yes.
Did you drive in a car with Kitty Menendez as the driver?
Yes.
Strike that wasn't English. Did you ride in a car as a passenger when Kitty Menendez was the driver?
Yes.
And did she have a particular style or method of driving?
I don't know if I would call her a style or a method. She was a reckless driver.
Was that occasionally or more
No,
often than
that was
occasionally?
all the time.
And what do you mean by reckless?
She would accelerate to the end, even if we're going to stop in the corner. She would turn 90-degree angles. She wouldn't look before she turned. She would accelerate, and if she could, we would be 90 miles an hour instantly. It was very uncomfortable.
Do you ever remember seeing any car seats in her car, children's car seats?
No.
Do you remember riding in the car with her in 1972 when Eric was 2 and his being unsecured in the car?
Definitely. The boys were out of the window. They drove with their hands out of the window, pulling them out to get some fresh air, which scared me to death.
Did you ever see the boys
This is bizarre. I mean, how can a mother let her kids do that? Like, first of all, how is she driving like that with her kids in the car? That just makes no sense to me. And then to let them hang outside the window while she's going 90 miles an hour and turning around corners super fast and not slowing down at lights.
either of them hanging on to a strap to keep from sliding off the seat?
No, they were standing. They were not even sitting.
And was this in 72?
Yes.
And later on, did she obtain a car that had a sunroof?
Yes.
And was there a typical way in which she allowed the children to ride in that car?
Yes.
And would you describe that for the jury?
They would go standing with their whole body, half of their body out the window and on the sunroof, with their hands up like the kids do in the roller coasters.
Oh.
And would she ever tell them to sit down or to sit
No, she
still?
thought it was silly that I didn't like it, that the kids had a lot of fun doing that.
Now, after Eric was about 13, did you see less of him at his sports function, say?
Yes, I did.
And why was that you saw less of him?
I was asked not to go
Asked by whom?
by Kitty.
And would you have, in the past, before that, routinely taken Andy along?
Yes,
And by being asked not to go, did that mean Andy didn't go either?
that's correct.
And at about the same time, was there also a difference in the frequency with which Andy was allowed to stay over at Eric's house?
Yes.
And what happened there? Was it less frequent, more frequent?
Well, Andy would call constantly to go and spend weekends or go and play for an afternoon with Eric, and Kitty will always answer the phone and say that, sorry, Andy, but Eric is very busy. Maybe when his father is out of town, you can come try next weekend.
But the bottom line was that Andy didn't get to go very often.
No.
We heard from Andy Cano in part 2 of the defense's case. He testified briefly on the stand. So we did hear from Andy, which is her son.
Did you ever hear Kitty when she was talking to you about her unhappiness with her marriage, the fact that she didn't feel she came first?
Yes, that was a constant talk.
Did she ever use the phrase, "I'm garbage"?
Yes.
Would you tell us how that fit into that conversation?
Well, I used to minimize it. I used to say, oh, Kitty, don't feel bad. I mean, it's just that Jose is so obsessed with the boys that, oh, he thinks of that, but he loves you and he cares for you. And she says, I don't think so, Marta. Sometimes I feel like garbage.
And did she say that on more than one occasion?
Yes.
Now, way back when you first started testifying, you had made mention of a discussion that you had with your brother in about 1987, where he was describing how he perceived Eric.
That's correct.
Now, was this a discussion in person or over the telephone?
No, it was over the telephone.
And was the basic topic of this discussion your son?
That's correct.
You were talking about Andy and schools for Andy?
That's correct.
All right. But somehow in that discussion, your brother started talking about Eric.
He felt that maybe I should not put Andy in a private school, that, for example, with Eric, when he took him out of PDS, would have been sort of better because Eric wasn't as strong and as powerful. He was too soft and too tender and too mediocre to go, and he felt better in the public school than in the private school, that maybe I should do the same with Andy.
So he started talking about matching children to schools and then gave you this description of Eric as soft and weak and tender?
Right.
Well, you also misstated it, so objection sustained.
Was softness and tenderness, in the way your brother was describing Eric, did that sound like those were compliments or
No.
were those criticisms?
No, that was...
Sustained.
Well, what was his tone of voice when he's saying this?
Jose for years had been very aggravated with Eric's softness and tenderness and ridiculous crying and sensitivity, and he had...
Sustained. The answer's straight.
Were there other occasions upon which your brother complained to you about Eric's weak personality?
Many times.
And had he referred to him in the past as too tender, too soft?
Definitely.
And did those descriptions of Eric as sensitive, tender, soft, did that comport with what you saw in Eric?
Overruled.
Yes.
Now, after your, strike that, at some point after Sunday, August 20th, 1989, did you learn that your brother and sister-in-law had been killed?
Yes.
And did you then come to California?
Yes, I did.
And how soon after you learned of their death did you come?
As soon as I could.
Well, when was that?
Within 3 hours.
On what day did you learn of their death?
At 9 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time, on the 21st, Monday.
And were you in California Monday afternoon?
Yes.
And when you got to California, where did you go?
I went straight to the Belage Hotel.
The Belage?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Belage. Is that
Okay.
the place?
Yes.
And was that a place where other Menendez and Anderson family members were staying?
Yes.
And how long did you stay in Los Angeles on that trip?
Until Friday night.
And that was Friday night, the 25th?
That's correct.
And on Friday night, the 25th, where did you go?
The whole family, including myself, went to Princeton, New Jersey for the funeral.
And was there a memorial service here in Los Angeles before the funeral in Princeton?
Yes.
And what was the day of the memorial service here?
Friday morning, same day at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Friday the 25th.
That's correct.
And what was the day of the funeral in Princeton?
It was Monday. So it was Monday, I believe that it was around 11 o'clock in the morning as well.
That was the 27th?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, when you got here on Monday, did you, at any time on that day, did you see Eric or Lyle?
I don't recall. I don't think I saw them that day.
Did you see Eric or Lyle on Tuesday?
Yes.
And where did you see them on Tuesday?
I saw them at the Belage. Eric came with Mark Hefferman. Lyle came before on his own.
And were they with other people as well as Mark? Were they with relatives?
Yes.
Was there talking among the relatives?
Yes.
Did you have any time alone with them on that day?
No.
On the next day, at some point on Tuesday, did you go to Jose's business office?
Yes, I did.
Overruled.
And was that an office at Live, L-I-V-E, Entertainment?
That is correct.
And where was that office located at that time?
Here in Van Nuys.
And did you spend a portion of Tuesday at his office?
Yes, I did.
And did you have a conversation, without telling us what, with his secretary, Marzi Eisenberg?
Yes, I did.
And with Ms. Eisenberg present, did you look through your brother's papers?
Yes, I did.
And did you continue to do that on part of the day Wednesday as well?
Yes, I did.
And did you, as a result of looking through those papers, write up a document?
Yes, I did.
Did you also remove some of those papers and maintain them?
Yes, I took all the files.
And was there some specific information that you were trying to gather as a financial planner?
Yes, I was.
And was that information about the assets and the liabilities of your brother's estate?
That's correct.
Now, at some point on Wednesday or Thursday, did you set up an appointment to talk to Eric and Lyle?
Yes.
And did you approach them and tell them something?
I told them that...
Counsel, the court sustains its objection at this point.
And did you have a private meeting with them at some point?
Yes, I did.
And what was the day, to the best of your recollection, of the private meeting?
Thursday, early evening.
And was that the first time you had been alone with Eric and Lyle, or either of them, from the time you came in on Monday?
Yes.
Now, without getting into it, did you tell Eric and Lyle what the purpose of the meeting was before the meeting?
Sustain.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask this question as a foundation for future testimony. Well, I'm not going to get into the meeting.
Foundation for what?
Future testimony.
All right, if you can answer that question, yes or no?
No.
No, you didn't tell them the purpose.
No.
Now, were your sister, Terry Baralt, and her husband, Carlos Baralt, here in Los Angeles for that same period of time that you were, Monday to Friday?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, were they the executors of your brother's will?
Yes, they were.
Were you a witness on your brother's will?
Yes, I was.
And were you aware that that will had been written in 1981?
Yes, I was.
Now, were you aware during that week that you were in Los Angeles that your brother had an insurance policy with Sun Life Insurance?
Yes, I did.
And in fact,
And this is what we heard yesterday on the proffer talking about the life insurance and the different policies and what she knew and what the boys knew about it in her conversation with them. And they, on the voir dire, she said that the boys seemed very surprised about the fact that there was any money for them because they thought that they were written out of the will. That's what their father told them. So, according to her, if she had when she had the conversation with them about the will.
were you the person who was the broker for that insurance policy?
That is correct.
And when was it that you had basically sold your brother that insurance policy?
In 1986.
Now, had you ever discussed the existence of that insurance policy with either Eric or Lyle before your brother's death?
No, as a matter of fact, I had not ever
Okay,
discussed
you've answered the question.
You can just say no.
No.
Had you at any time before your brother's death ever heard Eric and Lyle themselves discussing any insurance policy?
No.
During that week that you were in Los Angeles from Monday to Friday, did you file a claim against that insurance policy?
Yes, I did.
And did you do that before or after any discussion you might have had with Eric and Lyle about that policy?
I did it before while I was at Life Entertainment.
So without even discussing it with them, you just filed the claim?
That is correct.
Did you have, in fact, the paperwork on that policy?
It was in my office, and I called my secretary, and she faxed it to Sun Life.
It was in your office in Florida?
That's correct.
When you went through Jose Menendez's papers at his office, was there any copy of that policy
No,
there?
no.
Was there any reference to the policy
No, I
there?
looked for it, and it wasn't there.
Now, when you filed this claim, were you claiming on behalf of the contingent beneficiaries?
That is correct.
And were Eric and Lyle the contingent or second beneficiaries?
Yes, they were.
Did you tell anybody else in the family that you were doing this before you did it?
No.
I might have a moment, Sean.
Yes.
Showed the exact date. Did you maintain any kind of written record that showed the exact date upon which you had the meeting with Lyle and Eric?
Yes.
You have
Oh,
the
no,
date?
sorry, no.
Okay. Is there any uncertainty in your mind about whether the meeting was on Wednesday or Thursday?
Yes.
Your Honor, if we might approach briefly concerning scheduling.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Two matters. I just needed to mark a couple of photographs.
all right.
You recall testifying, Mrs. Cano, that you were in your brother's office when he was at RCA on 2 occasions when you overheard him calling home and giving detailed instructions and asking details.
Yes, I did.
And I'd like to mark a photograph. Where are we? 180.
186.
Thank you. And that's an 8 by 10 black and white photograph. I also want to mark another photograph, 187. And that's a smaller photograph of Eric Menendez, approximately 9. RCA when you describe the phone calls.
Yes.
He pretty much maintained that look throughout his life, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And I remember describing a story for us about when you and Kitty were going shopping and Eric was homesick.
Yes.
And does this photograph 187 accurately depict what Eric looked like at that age?
Yes, he looks a little bit fuller there, but he was like that.
This was about the same age
Just a little thinner.
that episode. He was thinner on the day that he was sick?
Yes.
And finally, one other matter. Have you seen today a police report from the Beverly Hills Police Department dated August 19th, 1993?
Yes, I did.
And is this a police report that purports to contain a conversation between yourself and Detective Zoller back in October of 1989?
That's correct.
Now, in fact, from the period of August
Why is she smirking? It's like she knows these questions are coming and she's ready for her answer.
21st, for several months after that, did you have frequent telephone contact with Detective Zoller?
Yes, I did.
Were you making some efforts to be of assistance to him?
That is correct.
Were you giving him names and information?
Yes, I was.
I'm sorry, I'm going to beg the court's indulgence. I just remembered an entire area that I meant to go into that I forgot, so yeah, that's it. When you first got to Los Angeles on the week of August 21st, had you already received some kind of indication that the police were interested in or pursuing a theory of who was responsible for your brother's death?
Yes.
And where had you received that information from?
Marcy.
Okay, so Marcy told you
My
something.
brother's secretary, when she called me and informed me about Jose's death, she told me, I asked her
Okay,
what.
without anything further.
That's fine. I'm not asking you for what Marcy told you, but
Okay.
you had in mind that the police's investigation was taking a particular path or direction. Is
Yes.
that correct? And did you have a number of conversations with the police where you were talking about the notion that Jose's death may have been related to business
Correct.
and may have been related to some underworld heights in the business?
That's right.
And do you specifically recall a conversation with Detective Zoller at the Hamburger Hamlet restaurant on Sunset on some day in October of 1989?
I remember going for lunch with him.
Can you now remember 4 years later what the conversation
No,
was?
I do not.
And you're aware of the fact that this report dated August 19th, 1993 is the only memorialization of supposedly of that conversation. Have you ever seen any other police report or notes that purported to contain a conversation between yourself and Detective Zoller?
No. No, they were all informal.
You had informal talks with him?
Yes.
Did you ever see any notes of his relating to your conversations?
I don't recall seeing any.
Do you recall asking me, as recently as 2 weeks ago, how come... This is the only time you've seen a police report that claims to have a conversation between yourself and Detective Zoller.
That's correct.
And in the course of this, well, according to this police report, so we'll strike that. Do you recall talking to Detective Zoller, whether on this day at the Hamburger Hamlet or in your phone calls, about one of your brother's business connections, one of the businesses that he had been involved in?
Yes.
And do you recall talking about people, Morris Levy and Noel Bloom?
Yes.
And was it your belief at this time, based on what you originally heard from Marcy, that they were suspects?
Yes.
In October of 1989, did you have any reason to believe that Lyle and Eric were responsible for this?
Not at all.
Now, in the course of talking to Detective Zoller, whether on this day or another day, did you ever tell him, did you ever describe your brother's family to him in very positive terms?
I'm sure I did.
And let me read you, for example, did you ever describe your brother's family as close and loving?
Close, yes. Loving, I wouldn't say that. It could be that that was his conclusion of my conversation.
Okay.
But it could be. I mean, at the time, I had no reason to disclose Jose's truth and change anything that he always wanted to portray. I didn't want to do that.
Let me ask you this. You've testified here for a day and some about a lot of behaviors of your brothers and your sister-in-laws that you didn't like.
Right.
Did you tell the police about?
These captions are making me dizzy. I'm getting nauseous. Trying to read them. I like reading the captions. Sometimes they don't say exactly what the people are saying, but that's okay. They're pretty good.
The treatment that you saw your brother and sister-in-law impose on their children.
I didn't tell anybody.
But why didn't you tell that to the police in
Because
1989?
It would break the image that I know Jose and Kitty always wanted to give, and I had no reason to do that.
Okay, you didn't have any reason to believe that at that time that those things that you saw had led to their death.
No, not at all.
Did you discover after your brother and sister-in-law's death that there were things that had been concealed from you by them over the course of their life? Did you learn things about their family after they died that you didn't know when they were alive?
Same objection and irrelevant.
Had you ever heard from your brother or your sister-in-law when they were alive that Eric had any kind of learning problems?
Objection, action, answer.
Did you know about your brother's 8-year affair while he was alive?
Objection is expected.
Sustain.
Did you ever know before your sister-in-law died why she was taking those pills?
Objection, calls for speculation, calls for hearsay.
It asks if she has personal knowledge.
Objection sustained.
Did you have personal knowledge of why Kitty was taking Valium?
Objection
No.
sustained.
Speculation.
The answer is no. Objection sustained anyway. Next question, please.
Why is he sustaining everything? I want to hear.
Did you ever stay over at the house on Elm Drive?
Yes.
And was that a very large house?
Yes.
I would like to show the witness some photographs. I don't know if I can.
How much longer are you going to be with this witness? You indicated that you had completed your examination.
I can still be another 10 minutes.
On what subjects? Approach the sidebar, please. They have a brief further direct examination showing a couple of pictures and asking a couple of questions of the witness, and then they'll have cross-examination.
I'm not sure about the couple of questions, but
That's what you indicated.
they always grow. Were you aware, Mrs. Cano, that there was an investigation of the deaths of your brother and sister-in-law instigated by Live Entertainment?
Yes, I did.
And was that to try to deal with the issue of whether it was business-related?
Yes.
And were you familiar with a firm of private investigators called Palladino and Sutherland?
Is that the one that called me on the phone?
Yeah, that's the one that called you on the
Yes.
phone. And in fact, in February of 1990, were you interviewed over the telephone by somebody from that firm?
Yes.
And did you talk to them about some of the same information that you would talk to Detective Zoller about, these business contacts of your brothers that you were suspicious about?
Yes, I did.
Business contacts.
Now, did you say flattering things about your brother to this investigator over the telephone?
I probably did.
Did you tell them, for example, that your brother was moral and ethical to the extreme?
That was the picture Jose wanted to portray, and I was not going to change it for any other reason.
Did you think your brother was moral to the extreme?
I thought he was in the business world. I knew he wasn't in the family world.
Did you also tell them that your brother was undefeatable? The only way to get rid of Jose was to kill him?
Yes, and I do believe that.
And were you, in talking about one of these business connections, did you even mention to Palladino that your brother was sarcastic and put this person down?
Yes.
And was that, let's strike that. Did you see your brother being sarcastic, being a put-down artist with adults as well as children?
He did that all the time. Anytime anyone tried to defy him, he would humiliate them and ridicule them. And win.
Was your brother in your family held up as an idol, an ideal, something to aspire to?
Yes, because he was extremely successful in the business world.
Now, did you also tell Palladino and Sutherland that, with respect to your brother and his children, that your brother would tell them what to do and what not to do, that he gave them no choices?
That's correct.
Did you also, however, tell them that the boys couldn't have been more loved and pampered?
I'm not sure I said it that way because they were never loved and pampered, but I probably told them that they had everything they wanted or needed to want. You know, materialistic things, they had them all.
Well, do you think that in talking to these investigators, you were trying to paint a rosy but untrue picture of the family?
I'm sure I was.
Did you also, however, tell them that the boys were very good kids?
Yes, they were.
Did you also tell them that neither boy is much of a talker, that's how they were raised, just like their parents, very reserved, very private?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I have nothing further with leave of court so that it won't delay things. I'll show the photographs during redirect. Would that be easier?
Only if the purpose is to show photographs and nothing else. If there's
Yeah.
going to be extensive examination on any events that occurred when she was at the house, then why don't you do it now?
No, they didn't.
All right, cross-examination.
Well, let's see it.
Mrs. Cano, at the time that you spoke to Detective Zoller, specifically at the Hamburger Hamlet, were you aware of the fact that he was trying to solve the murder of your brother and your sister-in-law?
Of course I was.
And did you think that
use of the word murder, Your Honor. That's for the juries to decide.
Overruled.
did you think that that was something that was important? And at that time, you gave him information which now it seems you knew to be misleading. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that. I just omitted certain issues that I did not see any reason to reveal at the time.
Okay. Did you tell him that Jose did everything for Eric and Lyle?
That is correct. He even instructed them what to say.
He would often travel with them as a family to various parts of the United States to watch their involvement in tennis. Did you tell Detective Zoller that?
Not exactly to watch the involvement, but to tell them how to play tennis, yes.
You
To be
just-
part of their tennis match, yes.
Did you also tell him or describe the family as being close and loving?
They were close, they were not loving. I could not have said that. I know that that's part of that, and I believe that that was probably a conclusion from Dr. Zoller from saying that they were always together. Yes, they were always together.
You want to help the defendants in this case, don't you?
Not necessarily. I have my own personal integrity, and remember, I'm talking against my brother here. I'm not talking against a stranger.
Great.
You also told Detective Zoller,
Exactly. It's like do you think she wants to stand up there or sit up there on the stand and say, yeah, I knew my brother was having an 8-year affair and I knew he was mistreating the boys and I knew, do you think she wants to talk about this stuff? I'm sure she doesn't. This is her brother she grew up with, whether he was a jerk to her or not throughout their lives, still her brother. So, uh, I, I don't think she's up there just for the heck of it to protect the boys.
Zoller asked you, did he not, if you knew of any problems within the family, and you said no.
That is correct. The problems that I knew, I did not think at the time had anything to do with the killings, and I would reserve them because Jose never wanted to portray that out to the outside.
But Jose was dead at that point, is that correct?
That is correct, but his image was still there.
And you didn't think that the things that you've described to this jury were problems enough to tell Detective Zoller about, is that correct?
I am sorry, could you repeat that question?
Well, you've told this jury about several instances in which you viewed either Mr. Menendez or Mrs. Menendez mistreating their children. Would that be a fair characterization?
That is correct.
And you didn't think that was important to tell Detective Zoller when you spoke to him on October of '89?
No, he didn't ask me any on those issues. If he would have asked me, maybe I would have said something to him, but he didn't ask me any questions on those issues.
But it was your intent when you talked to Detective Zoller to paint a rosy picture.
It was my intent to continue to portray my brother's and his family's image. Yes, it was.
And when you talked to the Palladino investigators, you tried to paint the same picture.
That is correct.
And now you're trying to paint a different picture.
No, now I'm saying the truth.
Okay, so before you didn't tell the truth.
I omitted certain issues of the truth because, as I said, at that time, I did not have to parry with the conscience that if I didn't say the truth, horrible things could happen.
And are you saying that you feel differently now?
I don't feel different. I feel exactly the same way. I just know things that I didn't know before, and I have to have the integrity to say what I know.
And you didn't have the integrity to say what you knew before.
I've always.
This woman is a great witness for the defense. Just amazing. Like Pam Bazanich or whatever. Oh, we're on redirect. I keep forgetting. Change that. Pam Bazanich, the lead prosecutor, she keeps trying to get her on these hard questions and trying to impeach her, and she's like, "Yeah, no, I didn't know that then," or whatever. Like she's totally honest and totally credible. I believe her, and I think she's a great witness for the defense.
His word talked with integrity. I just omitted issues that he never asked me direct. As a matter of fact, if you see on the detectives, the other person that interrogated me, he did ask me how did they behave, and I told him that they were very secretive. I didn't say that to Zoller. He never asked me.
Now, in October of 1989, I believe you indicated in your direct examination that you had no reason to suspect the defendants. Is that correct?
That's definitely correct.
So all of the mistreatment that you had observed over the years did not, in your mind, provide any kind of motivation. Is that correct for them to have done the killings? In October of 1989, you were aware of all these incidents of mistreatment, which you've told the jury about
That
today.
is correct.
And that information was all done because the parents were dead as of October of '89. In other words, you had witnessed all these things prior to October of '89.
Yes, and I still think that they would
Wait.
not have killed him for that, alone.
Okay, but that is your opinion. That is correct?
That is correct.
So the fact that of all these things going on did not cause you to be suspicious. Is that correct?
No, they were very good kids.
I take it you love your nephews very much.
I do, and so I do love my brother and
Okay, well, the question is, do you love your nephews?
Yes, I do.
Your brother and Mrs. Menendez are gone,
Not in my memory,
but they're gone. They're dead.
in your mind, not in mine.
And you want to help these defendants, don't you?
I want to say the truth about the defendants. I think I have a need and an obligation to reveal the truth.
Why didn't you?
Wow, I think it's disgusting what Pam Bazanich is trying to do to get her riled up and angry. To say, well, they're gone, they're dead, you can't get them back, but these two you can save. Get out of here. That's not. Why would she sit there and disparage her brother's name? Yeah, people don't think sometimes.
You tell Detective Zoller the truth when you talked to him in October of
The
'89.
boys were not at stake at the time.
So since they're at stake, it's then that you will paint this picture.
Again, the same thing I said to you. I didn't lie to him. I just deviated portraits of image. I did not reveal personal details that I knew that were confidential reports. I didn't reveal them to anyone that knew me.
When you were asked by Detective Zoller if you knew of any problems within the family, you said no.
He was referring to other kinds of problems.
Well, did you think that the things that you've told this jury about, both the juries about, do you think those were problems?
Those were mistreatments and definitely were issues, but I didn't see them as problems in reference to threaten my brother's life.
I believe you indicated that on one occasion when you were coming back from, I think it was Eric's graduation from high school, that Kitty Menendez got in an accident. She asked you to lie for her, to
That is
Jose.
correct.
And you did that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you-
Very embarrassingly wise.
But
I
you
did.
you lied to help Kitty.
I wouldn't put it that way. I would have done it for you too. I mean, it was a matter of avoiding a confrontation with Jose. That's the way I understood it. And the last thing I wanted to do on Eric's graduation was to set up an issue that apparently was an issue according to Kitty's behavior.
Okay, so you were willing to lie about what happened to the car, is that correct?
I find that a very minor detail. I was not in anyone's life at stake.
Because she's willing to lie about the car so that Kitty wouldn't get in trouble from Jose because she bumped into some other car and she needed to get the fender work done or whatever. I don't know. She she was afraid of Jose finding out, and this poor woman didn't want her to get the wrath of Jose like she knew he could do. So she said, okay, I'll lie. I'll say you went grocery shopping and he'll be none the wiser. Your car will be fine and whatever. I don't think that's a reason to be like, well, you would lie on the stand and you would perjure yourself and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's a good enough comparison, but I know she's got to try. She's got to do what she's got to do. But the sad and honest truth is that Pam Bazanich still to this day thinks that the boys are where they're supposed to be, and probably that they didn't get enough of a punishment, even though they're never getting prison. She she still thinks that the state got it right.
If their lives would be today, I would not be lying. Whether it's in their behalf or not, I would not be lying.
And I'm only saying that because I saw a interview or something. If I can find it, maybe I'll play it here one day. Let me go back up a little bit because I'm talking too much.
A confrontation with Jose, that's the way I understood it. And the last thing I wanted to do on Eric's graduation was to set up an issue that apparently was an issue according to Kitty's behavior.
Okay, so you were willing to lie about what happened to the car, is that correct?
I find that a very minor detail. I was not in anyone's life at stake. If their lives would be today, I would not be lying. Whether it's in their behalf or not, I would not be lying.
Now, I believe you've told the juries about several instances of bad conduct by your brother and by your sister-in-law. Would that be a fair characterization?
Would you rephrase that?
Yes. You've talked about many things that your brother did to his sons that were mistreatment in your mind, correct?
That's correct.
And you also testified to many things about Mrs. Menendez, too.
That's correct.
Do you have anything nice to say about your brother? Were there any good characteristics that he had?
His total dedication to his children, which became an obsession and a possession, unfortunately. If it would have been only a total dedication, I would have admired it all my life, because they did have, both of them, total dedication. The problem is it became a sick type of obsessive dedication.
Well, what I wanted to know is, did they have any positive character traits, either one of them?
I believe that's a positive thing. To be dedicated to your children is very positive.
But I believe you've indicated that it became an obsession, which is a negative character trait.
Unfortunately, it did.
And do you have anything positive to say about your brother?
He was an admirable person. He controlled every business negotiation he would encounter. He would control every single conversation that we were into. He would manage to have the right words to ridicule and intimidate and humiliate and manipulate anyone that was present, so he could control. So in my eyes, believe it or not, I admired his ability to control and to turn things around to his behalf and to his favor. I did admire that. He was unbelievable.
You admire that in him?
Of course.
Okay, what about Mrs.
I didn't admire that manipulation, but I admire his ability to do that.
What about Mrs. Menendez? Is there anything about her that you liked? Or
I
anything?
admire her. She was a tremendous athlete. She was very strong. She could pick up a Christmas tree and move it from one place to the other and didn't have to wait until her husband came home to do it, which I couldn't do. I admire that strength. I admire the fact.
How is this relevant? And if it is relevant, then can't they bring in all character evidence about the witnesses, because they've opened the door to it now? So any bad character evidence should be able to come in too. Because why are they asking? Like, how is it relevant? Is there anything good about them that you liked? Well, that's not the point, lady. She's here because she's showing you, telling you what it was like in that household and what it was like for the boys. So you're completely missing the point.
Fact that she was intelligent, and she was a handyman, and she could put together a barbecue. I remember once we bought a barbecue and I didn't know where to start, and she had no problem putting it together and getting the right tools. And I admire all that on her. She was great on that. She was very she had a tremendous amount of abilities.
So you admire the fact that she was physically strong, correct?
Yes.
That she was intelligent.
That's correct.
And that she had mechanical ability.
That is correct.
Now, I believe you indicated on your direct examination that you lived in Puerto Rico for the 14 years prior to 1979. Is that correct? So from 1965 to 1979.
That is correct.
And I believe you indicated you stayed with your brother for 1 week in 1972. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And between 1972 and 1979, on how many occasions did you see your brother interact with his family?
Every Christmas and every summer.
Okay, I believe the summer vacations were for 2 weeks.
I went from 2 weeks to a month, depending. Always went in the month of July, and spent. I stayed at Terry's, but they lived within 5 miles.
So the only time that you actually lived in the Menendez home during that period of time when you were residing in Puerto Rico was the 1 week in 1972.
That's the only one I recall.
Did you ever live in the Menendez home again for any period of time, including an overnight stay, between 1979 and the time of their deaths in 1989?
I stayed overnight when I was moving.
And when was that?
That was in 1986.
And was that at the Princeton house?
That is correct.
And how long did you stay there in 1986?
I'm sorry?
How many nights did you spend there while you were moving?
Just one night. Jose was on a trip, and Kitty was alone in the house.
All right, so the total number of nights that you spent in the house would be the 1 week in 1972 and the one night in 1986.
To sleep, yes.
And then I believe you indicated you spent some time in Beverly Hills. Is that correct?
Yes, I came for a week within Eric's graduation time.
Did you spend?
I spent 1 week at the house, yes.
So that it would be 2 weeks during the course of 17 years and one night when you were moving.
Yes, but we were a very close family. We interrelated and got together many, many times.
I believe you indicated on one occasion that Eric Menendez was, I believe you said, a toddler or a baby, and that he was running around in the woods outside of the house. Do you remember your testimony in that regard?
Yes, I do.
Were there other cousins of his around him at that time?
That was a danger, that there were kids from all ages, and he was a baby. He was 2, and there were kids 4, 5, 7, which were not looking after him. They were too small as well, and they were playing rough.
All right, and so the oldest child involved was 7 years old?
There were the boys were playing, which was Peter, Eric, and Lyle, and Peter was only 2 years older than Lyle, and Lyle was 5, so we're talking Peter 7, 5, and 2.5. I mean, 2, not even 5. Lyle was not 5 yet.
And
Peter had just turned 7 because Peter was born in December 65.
So Peter was not old enough to look after a child?
They were not looking after anybody. They were playing hide and seek and running and hitting one another. I don't call that looking, it's not a sitting down playing.
I believe there were some photographs on the board yesterday showing Eric as a baby holding on to some bars. Is that correct?
That's right.
Those photographs, do you know where they were taken or when?
I know that they were taking at that time. I know from Eric's age. I mean, during that time. Plus, at the time, Jose used to brag about the fact that he would take the boys to the gym and make them strong, showing them all this strength in the bars.
But you weren't personally present when the photograph was taken, were you?
No, I was not presently taken. That's a gym bar, and I think I stated that I have never been at the gym.
I believe you testified about some...
Do you guys think if they had girls instead of boys that the same outcome would have happened if there were boys in the family instead of, I mean, if there were girls in the family instead of 2 boys, 2 girls? I wonder. I wonder about that. I mean, I don't know. Because Jose's got that pride and that he's very boastful of his means, um his children, his life, they both, him and Kitty, try to portray this wonderful, perfect Hollywood, glamorous, rich life. And when the door closes and no one else is home, it's not all rainbow. What's there's a phrase from Sister Wives, which is like my one indulgence of like reality TV that I watch. What does he say? It's like beer and Skittles. It's not all beer and Skittles. is the saying. It's not all beer and Skittles when the doors close. Anyways, um, sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, let's move on. I just think it's my question. Yeah, about the girls. Let me know in the comments what you think if they had girls instead of boys. What the outcome? Would they get the same outcome? I don't know.
Driving on Mrs. Menendez's part. At the time, did she have seat belts installed in her car?
Of course.
In 1972?
Of course. She had top-of-the-line cars, and they all had seats in the back seat and the front seat. I had my kids put the seat belts because I didn't feel comfortable leaving them loose there.
Didn't she have an older model Jaguar?
No, it was not a Jaguar. I don't know what kind of car it was, but I think it was a Buick. I'm not sure, but I recall it was a Buick. I'm not sure of that. It was a big car. It was not a Jaguar.
I believe you indicated during your testimony and just recently that Mrs. Menendez was a strong woman.
Very so.
Now, between 1986 and 1989, how many times did you see Kitty Menendez? 1986 is the year that you moved to Florida and they moved to California. Is that correct?
I saw them several times.
Well, several times a year?
From 86 to 89,
Yes.
I saw them in Christmas. Christmas 86, I don't think they attended. I think they did not. They didn't go and meet with us. But I saw them in February 87 when my father died, and I saw them in September 87 when my daughter Marta got married, and I saw them in April 87 when they went to Florida for the Easter Bowl, which they attended every year.
April 87 or 88?
I believe so. I think they went 87, 88, and 89.
So you saw them on those occasions?
That's correct.
Did you see them Christmas of 88?
As a matter of fact, let me get back. Christmas 86, they went to New Jersey. I didn't, because it was the last Christmas of my father, so I remember that. I did not attend that Christmas myself. Christmas 88, we were together.
How many months?
Maybe not. I don't recall, really. I mean, I know at the time they were not attending to many Christmases anymore, so I can't recall exactly if it was 88, the one that I didn't see them, or if it was 87. I think we met in 87. That's it. We met in 87 after my father's death. We were all there for Christmas. We were not together in 88.
And these Christmases you've talked about, were they celebrated on the East Coast?
They were celebrated at Terry's, yes. They used to be celebrated at Jose's when they lived in the East Coast, but when they moved, we celebrate them at Terry's.
How many months before their deaths was it that you last saw the Menendezes? Was it
June, the end of June 1989.
So at that time, was Kitty still a strong woman?
Oh, yes.
Now, I believe you indicated that you moved to the East Coast in 1979 from Puerto Rico, and you stayed there until your move to Florida in 1986. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat it again?
Yeah. You moved from Puerto Rico to the East Coast in 1979,
Correct.
and you stayed there until 1986 when you moved to Florida, correct?
That is correct.
Who moved out of New Jersey first, the Menendezes or you?
I did.
And do you remember what month you moved?
Sure. I moved in June 1986, and Jose, I believe, moved in October, September, October. My daughter Marianne stayed that summer with them because I was gone, so I'm sure that they moved after me.
Now, during that period of time, 1979, 1986, were you aware of the fact that relatives, cousins of the Menendezes would spend the summer, various cousins spent the summers at their home?
I'm only aware of one that spent the summer there.
And who was that?
Alicia.
Alicia?
Yes, after Marianne left or something, I think Alicia stayed there babysitting the house.
All right, now I'm referring to the years between 1979 and 1986.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Before you moved to Florida.
Yes.
Were you aware that cousins on Mrs. Menendez's side came and stayed for the summer or longer at the Menendez home?
Sure.
Okay, do you remember which ones?
I saw Diane very much. Diane is the one that I really remember the most. I don't remember Alan.
You don't remember Alan at all?
Not myself, no. I don't think Alan was there after 79.
How about Kathy?
No.
You don't remember her either?
No, I don't think.
So in part one, we heard from Alan Anderson and also Kathleen Simonton, both cousins. And then in part two, we listened to Diane Vandermolen's testimony and Andy Cano's testimony. I can't ever remember how to pronounce it. I think Cano, like in Mortal Kombat. Um, when I see it, because there was a character named Cano, so that's how I want to pronounce it, but it's not. It's Cano, Cano. All right. So we heard from many of these cousins that they're talking about. Just FYI.
Think she was there after 79. Not that I saw her anyway. If she was there, it was a very short period of time because I did not see her.
Did you ever see your brother strike his children?
With his hand, once I did see it.
And who did he strike and what year, if you can recall?
It was Eric, and it was after a soccer game. He was angry because Eric had been a sissy.
And that was the only time you
And
ever
he just struck him on the side and
Where?
pushed him on his side. He just hit him hard. The kid lost his balance.
Did he hit him on the arm?
Yes.
Did you ever see your brother hit Lyle?
Not hit him.
Okay, did you ever see your sister-in-law hit either of her children?
Kitty would throw things at them.
Did you ever see her hit them with her hand?
They would move out of the way of the object that she was throwing.
Did you ever see her hit them with her hand?
With her hand, yes, I saw her hit Lyle once with her hand.
How old was Lyle when she did that?
12, 13,
Was there a period of time where Lyle was disrespectful to his mother?
yes.
Could you tell me when that started?
That started in his teenage years. He sort of started resenting his mother. I felt that.
You got to move the strike, started resenting as a
I'm
conclusion on the
sorry.
part of the witness.
That was my.
I believe you indicated then when he started to become a teenager, what age would you say?
I would say he was about 14. By the time he had a girlfriend, more or less.
And what would he do to his mother to show disrespect? What
He would
actions?
not obey her. He would answer back to her. He would talk very rude to her, very unrespectful.
Did you see that kind of behavior continue in him past the age of 14?
Yes.
When was the last time you saw Lyle being rude or disrespectful to his mother?
The last time was at the Princeton Avenue house in 1986, right before they were on the process of moving, which I stated when Kitty made that comment to me that
Okay, you've answered the question. So that was 1986. Lyle was 18 years old at the time. Is that correct?
that's correct. I also saw him with her in 1989 when I went to Eric's graduation, but Lyle didn't attend the graduation with us. Lyle showed up very sloppily later at the back of the graduation. He was not with the family that day. I knew something was happening.
Move to strike. I knew something was happening as a conclusion on the part of the witness and non-responsive. Now, when you saw Lyle at Eric's graduation, did he continue to treat his mother in a disrespectful manner?
I saw him interact with both his father and mother very little. As a matter of fact, I saw Lyle. I stopped at Mass, and he was there.
Yeah, you can
No.
answer the question, yes or no.
Could you repeat
The question is, when you were at that house for Eric's graduation in 1989, did you or did you not see Lyle treat his mother disrespectfully?
I don't recall, really. I don't recall seeing him. Didn't see him much.
Mrs. Cano, I believe you've indicated just recently in your testimony that you saw Mrs. Menendez throw things at her children.
Yes.
Did you ever report her for child abuse?
No, you don't do that with your sister-in-law unless the boy is hurt. I mean, you just don't do that. I knew that was out of hand, but in my mind, I tried to diminish it because I just didn't want to believe that of Kitty.
And if you don't have proof, what are you going to do? I mean, you need physical evidence somehow. You would need pictures of their bruises and whatevers. You would need to know, yeah, you would need something, or you would need the kids to be fessing up and telling you what's happening, and then you take that to law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, well, you can. And if she did see something like a physical altercation that really did alarm her, maybe nowadays you would call protective services on your family. Maybe. I don't, would you call on your family? Would you? I don't know. Would I? Probably. It's a conundrum. Would you call on a family member? I mean, it's because she didn't, something terrible happened. I mean, no, I'm not blaming her, but I'm saying because nothing was ever reported earlier on, it came to what it came to because the boys felt trapped. I don't know.
But you saw it.
Yes, I did.
So it wasn't someone else telling you about it. You actually saw it.
No, I saw it, and I found it completely out of hand, and I did feel that she needed some help on her aggressive way of uncontrolled temper.
So what did you do to get her help?
I told her that she should go to a psychologist, that it was not normal behavior, and she looked at me very upset. She didn't like my comment.
You also gave her Valium, didn't you?
She asked me for Valium, and I told her I had some, and that she could take it because I didn't take it.
So you gave her your Valium, is that
That is
correct?
correct.
Is
I had been prescribed Valium once, and I never took it.
The incidences that you related to these juries, did you ever discuss them with other members of your family, like your sister Terry or your mother?
Yes, they were always discussed about the cruelty and the aggressiveness of Jose and Kitty treating the kids. Yes.
And so at some point, did you decide to intervene and try to get help for
No,
these-
because I had no idea that it went further than that. All that we saw was cruel and was wrong, but, you know, in the society that we live, you can't just go to the police and say the kid is being pulled. I see that in jail every day when I go, and the jail people are there,
Yeah,
and they don't do anything about it.
everything starting with when she goes to jail. Aside from going to the police, did you ever think of going for any kind of professional help for these?
I'm going to object at this point. This is irrelevant. Have her judge.
Yeah, it's not her fault. Like, why? They're trying to make it her fault because she didn't go, or either trying to make it her fault because she didn't go and report on this supposed mistreatment of the boys, like they're acting like, it didn't really happen, or because I don't know what I was saying anymore. Somebody made a comment about me, I should be scripted. No, no, that's not for me. But um I do forget what I'm saying a lot of the times when I'm in the middle of what I'm saying. And it should be a drinking game, probably. You guys could drink every time I forget something in the middle of saying it because autoimmune diseases. And yeah. Anyways, let's just get back into it.
It's irrelevant.
The question was, did you and your other family members ever try to go to a psychologist or someone aside from the police for help?
I did tell Kitty, and I did mention, we did discuss in the family several times that Kitty should go to a psychologist because it was not normal behavior, the way she behaved with the boys. Yes, we did.
What about Jose going to a psychologist? Did you ever discuss that?
It's interesting, we did, and Jose was such an image that my mother had always justified anything Jose did, so we just, in our mind, I knew that.
Okay. Now we're getting a little insight as to how Jose was brought up. Apparently, his mother worshipped the ground he walked on. Let's hear that again.
Behavior, the way she behaved with the boys. Yes, we did.
What about Jose going to a psychologist? Did you ever discuss that?
It's interesting, we did, and Jose was such an image that my mother had always justified anything Jose did, so we just, in our mind, I knew that Jose was very aggressive, but I did.
So mom made an excuse for all of Jose's horrid behavior growing up because it seems clear, and we learned from part one that Jose was not very close with his siblings, or he was treated differently than the siblings as well too. So but we didn't get into it, and I really would like to know more about that. So I might have to do a deep dive on Jose just for the heck of it.
Did it.
Now, I believe you indicated that you had been a teacher for 14 years.
Not that I want to. Not that I really want to spend more time on him than anything, but I owe it. The thing that really interests me about true crime is the psychology and how people do the things and why people do the things that they do, and how you're raised one way and you become a total psychopath, or you're raised another way and you become normal. So, or not become normal, but you don't have the same tendencies or homicidal tendencies or whatever it might be. Like if you're abused as a child, you're more likely to commit crimes or commit a homicide than if you weren't abused as a child.
Jose was such an image that my mother had always justified anything Jose did, so we just, in our mind, I knew that Jose was very aggressive, but I didn't.
Now, I believe you indicated that you had been a teacher for 14 years.
Yes, I was.
Did you have training in dealing with child psychology?
Yes, I did.
I believe you indicated there was an incident when Eric was 8 or 9 and that you went over to pick up Mrs. Menendez to go shopping and you discovered that Eric had a fever. Is that correct?
That's right. It's the time of this picture, as a matter of fact.
And I take it you were upset by the fact that Eric had a fever. Is that correct?
I wasn't exactly upset. I was concerned.
And so you told Mrs. Menendez, did you not, well, I'm not going to go shopping with you because I'm not going to help you to leave this child here.
No, I didn't say that. I told her, Kitty, we don't have to go shopping. We can go another day. As a matter of fact, it was her invitation to take me shopping and for lunch at New Hope. I told her, Kitty, we don't have to go today. I can go another day. And she told me, oh, no, Marta, there's no need. He'll be fine.
So you went shopping with her?
Yes, I did.
So you didn't refuse to go shopping in spite of the fact that Eric had this fever?
I didn't want
Argumentative.
I didn't want to hurt her feelings. She seemed to be convinced that Eric would be fine.
I believe you indicated there was an incident where you were going to go out of town and your son Andy was about 7.5 years old. And you went to drop him off at the Menendez home and found that the only person in attendance was Eric.
That is correct.
And so he would have been about 9 or 9.5 at that time, is that correct?
It was during the spring of 80, so
Well,
80, 81, I don't remember. Probably. I don't recall. He was around 9 years old.
So he's
He
2
was
years...
not 10, I know that. He was small. He was 8 or 9.
I believe you indicated then that you waited at the house until Mrs. Menendez came home, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
At that point, did you leave your son at the house?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I was not able to go to where I was going to go, but I went shopping for a little while and came back.
So after Mrs. Menendez returned home, you left your son there.
For a couple of hours, yes, I did.
But you were concerned before she got home because Eric had been left alone.
That is correct. I asked her if she was going to go out again, and she told me she was. And she was very angry, too, because I had waited. She thought it was ridiculous that the kids could fetch for themselves while she was gone.
I believe you also indicated that the Muncie house had a lake and that you were worried about the lake.
No, not in Muncie.
Well, which house?
The house was in the Pennington house. The lake was in the Pennington house. I don't recall any lake on Muncie. If there was one, I don't remember.
All right, so the Pennington house had a lake and you were concerned about the lake.
It's right behind the house. The house was at the border of the lake.
Did you ever let your son go over to the house when you weren't there?
Yes, I did. When he was a little bit older, I left him more than when he was smaller.
But when he was smaller, did you leave him there?
I left Marta, my daughter, many times with him to watch over him.
Did you ever leave him alone without Marta being there?
Yes, I did.
And you knew about the lake, correct?
Yes, but Kitty was there.
And you knew that in spite of Kitty being there, that she often did not supervise her children.
That is correct, and I made very sure that Andy remembered the instructions of what to do and what not to do. That was the condition. He loved so much to be with Eric that he would do anything for me to be with Eric. So I would say, okay, Andy, I'll let you go if you promise me that you're going to behave as if you had no supervision, because you're not going to get any supervision. And he did.
How old was Andy when they moved into the Pennington house? Do you remember?
Well, I don't know when they moved to the Pennington house. They were living in the Pennington house in 1979 when I arrived in Princeton. That was the first time I went to the Pennington house.
And when was your son, when was Andy born?
Andy was born in July 14th, 1973.
So when you got to the United States, Andy was about 6 years old.
That is correct.
How old was your son Andy when he got the injury which required 17 stitches?
He was 3.
And I believe you indicated that you had left him alone with Kitty Menendez. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
Well, you left him at the Menendez home.
No, I was in Puerto Rico and he had gone on a trip to my sister's with Marta, and he was spending a month with Marta in New Jersey at my sister Terry's house.
And it's your understanding that your son Andy was at the Menendez home when he cut himself. Is that correct?
I'm going to object to this because this is beyond her personality. She's in Puerto Rico.
I believe you indicated that your son Andy required 17 stitches at some point after being at the Menendez home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And was it your state of mind that somehow someone had neglected him?
I'm going to object to every state of mind. It's not an issue.
When your son Andy was 3 years old, you saw him with a cut on his chin, correct?
Not on the chin,
Where was his cut?
right on his forehead.
And it had stitches in it, correct?
Of course.
And then when you moved to the Princeton area, I believe you indicated that it was 1979 and the Menendezes had a lake behind their house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you continued to leave your son Andy at the Menendez home after he had sustained this cut with the 17 stitches,
Andy
correct?
was not 3 years old.
He was 6 years old.
He was 6 and a half, 7. When he was 6 and 7, I would leave him with his sisters. When he was older, around 8 or 9, he used to stay by himself with Eric and Kitty and Lyle.
I believe you've indicated in your testimony, in your direct examination, that your brother encouraged competition among the boys, including your sons. Is that correct?
Yes.
I believe you indicated in your direct examination that there were animal feces inside of the homes that the Menendez lived in. Is that correct?
Yes, all over the place.
I believe you indicated there was animal food in the house.
Yes, because they had the dog and the ferret as well would go into the laundry room where the food was and just pull it out and spread it all over.
I believe you indicated that there was dirty laundry in the house.
Yes.
And that sometimes the defendants wore clothes that were dirty.
Yes.
I believe you indicated that Kitty didn't really participate too much in meal preparation, that the children got their own meals on occasion.
The only meal that Kitty prepared was the evening meal.
I believe you indicated that Mr. Menendez spoke abusively to his sons.
Oh, yes.
I believe you indicated that Mrs. Menendez drove recklessly,
Yes,
and that at least on one occasion you saw her take Valium,
that's correct.
and you left your son there.
Objection, Your Honor. It's argumentative.
And what's the point? How is this relevant? She's just trying to impeach this person or make her look bad, or try to make her look like she's not credible. But just because she did leave her son there doesn't mean that she still wasn't hesitant. I mean, that's family. And if you don't leave your son there, that's kind of like, well, I don't trust you then, even though she kind of didn't.
Yes, Andy loved Eric so much that it would break my heart not to leave him playing with his cousin. It was only for one day, and I knew one day was not going to hurt him.
I believe that you indicated you let him spend the night there as well.
One day, that's it. I would leave him Saturday morning and pick him up Sunday afternoon.
How
When
many-
I was going to my other kids, they were all in sports in college and high school, so I was going to travel with them to watch their matches and games.
Were you worried about your son Andy when you left him in this environment?
I would call him a couple of times Saturday night and Sunday morning, many times.
Did you ever consider taking him with you?
Yes, I wanted to take him with me. He didn't want to go. He said it was boring to sit down beside a swimming pool or in a volleyball game or a water polo game, whatever the kid was, to sit there all afternoon. And I could understand. He was only a 7-year-old and he really wanted to be and play with Eric. I could understand that. He
So-
was my brother. We're better.
And so all of these things that you've complained about in the Menendez household did not keep you from leaving your son there.
Objection
No.
argumentative.
It worried me, though.
But you left him there anyway.
Objection argumentative.
Yes, I left him there anyway with a lot of instructions what I did.
And you also, your daughter, Marianne, also lived there for a period of 2 months.
Marianne was an adult at the time.
She could make her own
She
choices.
had just finished college, so she was an adult. She decided to stay there because she wanted to work in town, and Kitty offered her to stay there. It was her choice, not mine.
I have nothing further at this point.
All right, is there a redirect? All right.
Were you afraid of your brother?
I wasn't afraid of him. I was intimidated by him.
You were afraid of his mouth and his anger, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
And on some level, were you also afraid of Kitty, of her anger as well?
Objection Vegas to what level?
Sorry?
Vegas to what level she's talking about? I think she said on some level.
Objection. Did you understand the question?
Yes, I do understand.
Objection overruled.
Kitty was, I was even more scared of Kitty because at least with Jose, I know when he was coming. Kitty would change from being very quiet to being very abruptly aggressive, and it was very scary. You didn't know what to expect. So Kitty was somebody that I was very careful not to get in her rage because it was just out of hand.
The prosecutor was basically asking you, why didn't you interfere and intervene and run to the police and have them all arrested for child abuse? Did you feel that you actually knew everything that was going on in that home?
Of course not.
Did you feel these were very secretive and private people?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
They were very secretive and private.
And with respect to your brother, would you say that in your family circle, the exception perhaps of your mother, that he was the strongest-willed person in the family?
That is correct, and your exception is well taken.
The strongest willed member of the family. Let's hear that again.
And with respect to your brother, would you say that in your family circle, the exception perhaps of your mother, that he was the strongest-willed person in the family?
That is correct, and your exception is well taken.
So Jose got his personality from their mother. She was like this. And as we learned just now, apparently, their mother let Jose get away with a lot.
And wasn't your brother your mother's darling?
Yes.
And were you conscious of the fact that if you criticized your brother or tried to do anything that would harm your brother, that it would bring down the wrath of your mother?
Objection sustained.
Did you have some concerns with respect to your relationship with and your ability to continue within the family headed by your mother if you were to say or do anything that could hurt your brother?
I didn't have concerns at the time, but it's definitely true.
When you were living in New
Let
Jersey,
me rephrase that. So she was afraid that if she spoke out about Jose and anything that he did, she was fearful that she would be outed of the like ousted from the family because her mother held Jose so in such high regard. That's what I'm getting. So Jose was the baby of the family. Oh, I don't know if he was the baby, but he was the one that got away with everything in the family, and was mom's favorite apparently.
with your 5 children?
Yes.
Were you a single mother?
Yes, I was.
Were you supporting those children on your own?
Yes, I was.
And was your family important to you?
Very important. That's why I moved to Princeton when I divorced.
To be with your sister and your brother and their families?
That's correct.
And did you have any desire to disrupt and bring scandal to your family?
Objection relevance and meeting.
Overruled.
Not at all. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I had enough disruption in my own family.
And even after your brother and your sister-in-law were dead, were you conscious of the notion of not bringing any negative scandal to your brother and sister-in-law?
Of course, there was a very beautiful image of what the Menendez had been, and I didn't want to change that. I wish I would have never had to change it.
With respect to this notion of image, was image and status as important to Kitty as it was to Jose?
Objection calls for speculation. Anderson on the floor.
Sustained on the former ground.
Did Kitty talk to you about the importance of one's status in society and other people's perceptions of one?
Yes, that was the most important thing for her. What people thought of her was very important.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Any redirect on behalf of Lyle Menendez? Any further cross-examination? All right. How long will the examination of this witness take before the Eric Menendez jury? All right, ladies and gentlemen, as far as the Lyle Menendez jury is concerned, we'll excuse you until 2 o'clock. As far as the Eric Menendez jury, we'll have you back at 1:30. There's some testimony the lawyers have that would relate only to this witness before the Eric Menendez jury, so the Lyle Menendez jury is excused until 2 o'clock. Don't discuss this matter with anyone. Don't form any final opinions about it here at your respective appointed times. All right.
Mrs. Cano, in 1989, were you at that time working for Smith Barney?
Could you repeat the question?
All right, let me ask it open. Who were you working for in August, September, October of 1989?
For Smith, Barney, Harris, and Upham. That's correct.
Okay.
Harris and Upham.
That's a stock brokerage company.
That is correct.
And you were working in West Palm Beach, Florida.
That is correct.
Now, you've testified earlier today that you were the person who made the claim on the Sun Life insurance policy.
Yes, I did.
Now, with respect to Eric Menendez, do you remember when the policy, strike that. Do you remember that time when the company, Sun Life, paid out on the policy?
Yes, I do.
And did they pay out in one installment or in more than one?
No, they paid in 2 installments. They paid 2 different things.
Okay, they paid 2 installments.
That's correct.
And where did the checks from Sun Life, the payments, go?
They go to the agent, which in this case is me.
And what did you do with the checks, Eric's checks, when you received them?
I informed Eric that I had received the money.
And did he give you certain instructions about what to do with it?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell you to do with it?
Well, he told me he didn't want to deal with money, that he didn't know what to do with so much money, to put it in his account at Smith Barney.
Did he already have an account at Smith Barney?
Yes, he did.
From before the time his parents
Their
were killed?
father had opened it for them 2 years before.
And so what did you do?
Yet another example of they didn't care about the money. She has said this multiple times now on the stand that the boys didn't even think they were getting money. They don't care about the money. They don't want to deal with the money.
Then with those 2 proceeds checks as you received each one?
I deposit them in Eric's account.
And did you, subsequent to that time, make investments of some of that money on Eric's behalf?
Yes, I did.
Now, did he tell you what to invest in, or did you advise him?
No, I advised him.
And did he follow your advice?
Yes, he did.
Now, over the course of the next few months, were you consulted by Eric whenever he wanted to spend any significant amount of money?
All the time.
How frequently did you talk to him?
I talked to him practically daily.
And did you...
Eric consulted with his aunt anytime he wanted to spend money. So that blows the whole whatever out of the water that the boys just wanted to spend money. They just wanted their insurance and their inheritance and to go off and just spend away. That's not what we're seeing here.
You write checks and pay his bills for
Yes,
him?
I did.
And did you write those checks from this account that you had opened for him?
Yes, and other accounts as well.
He had other accounts at other places?
I suggested that he should have an account in a bank in New Jersey and a bank in California, so he wouldn't have problems cashing checks and getting cash of a machine.
You mean that was why he needed the California account?
That's correct, because he was traveling at the time between New Jersey and California and living in California, so I didn't feel that having an account with me in West Palm Beach was enough for him. He should have a local bank.
So on your suggestion, did he open an account at the United New Jersey Bank?
Yes, he did.
And did you maintain those accounts? In other words, did the statements go to you? Did you write a lot of the checks?
That is correct.
But he also was able to write checks on the
That's
Jersey.
right.
Gotta wait till I finish the question.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Did he also write checks on the United New Jersey Bank account?
Yes, he did.
And did you write checks on his California bank account?
Yes, I did.
Did you reconcile all those bank accounts each month?
Yes, I did.
You did all the accounting?
That's correct. I paid all his bills.
Do you recall sometime in, I believe, October of 1989, receiving a telephone call from Eric in which he was inquiring about the balance in his United Jersey bank account?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall, he asked you something, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And did he also tell you something about his having written a check?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell you about having written a check? Your Honor, this is foundational.
All right, I'll see counsel at the sidebar.
Thank you. We're going to change the subject. Did Eric contact you and ask you questions about the advisability of his buying a Jeep?
Yes, he did.
And did he tell you that he was thinking about buying a Jeep before he actually bought it?
Yes.
And did you, in fact, write the check to buy the Jeep?
Yes, I did.
And did he indicate to you whether he had received any advice before buying the Jeep?
Yes, he did.
And did he indicate to you who he had received advice from?
Yes.
And who did he tell you he received advice from?
Steve Goldberg, which is the lawyer of the estate.
Steve Goldberg is the lawyer for the estates of Jose and Mary Louise Menendez?
That's correct.
And you're acquainted with him, are you not?
Yes, I am.
And to your knowledge, he was obtained to be the estate lawyer by your sister Terry and your brother-in-law Carlos Barral.
That is correct.
And did you have dealings with Steve Goldberg having to do with Eric and financial planning for Eric?
I'm sorry.
Expenditures of Eric's and structuring Eric's life. Did you have
Yes.
discussions with Steve
Yes, I
Goldberg about
did.
that? Returning to the issue of cars, were you familiar in August of 1989 with what kind of vehicle Eric owned?
Yes, I did.
And what did he own?
He owned a 1987 Ford Escort.
And was it your understanding that that's a car that his parents had purchased for him?
Yes, it was.
And do you know what happened to that 1987 Ford Escort?
Yes, I do.
And what happened to it?
Eric wanted to sell it, so I bought it from him.
And you bought it for whose use?
For my son Andy, which at the time had become 16 and a half, and he could be driving.
And did Eric indicate to you any reason why he wanted to sell that car?
Overruled. Overruled.
He told me he didn't want to have that car anymore.
Did he give you any other explanation?
No.
Whoops. Do you need another explanation? I mean, he was an adult at the time. If he wanted to buy a new car, he doesn't need a reason. He was 18 at this time, or 19.
Now, do you recall a time when Eric rented an apartment at the Marina City Club?
Yes.
And do you recall having a discussion with him concerning furniture?
Yes.
And what did he indicate was his intention with respect to furniture at that time?
Any other question in the back, please?
The question, what did he indicate was his intention with respect to furniture at that time?
Overruled.
I was present in California, by the way.
All right, let me get to that. You were here when he was seeking to furnish the apartment in the
It
Marina?
was more than that. He called me to come to help him close the contract of the deal in the rental.
Okay.
I was present when that contract was closed.
Okay, and then was there some discussion about how he would furnish this apartment?
Yes.
And what was his stated intention as to how he was going to furnish it?
He wanted to rent some furniture.
And did you have a conversation with him concerning the advisability of renting versus buying?
Yes, I did.
And did you give him certain advice?
Yes, I did.
What advice did you give him?
I told him that paying $1,200 a month for rent for a period of time of a year or 6 months or 7 months, which at the time he was renting for, was ridiculous, that he should take some money that for that same amount of money that he was going to spend, he could have his own furniture and do whatever he wanted afterwards.
And
We
did you-
clarify that $1,200 for rent was for furniture?
Yes, Your Honor. That was for the
Monthly,
that's what it would cost
That
to
was the
furnish
monthly
apartment.
rental that on the furniture that he had already looked at, and he took me to see.
Okay, so you advised him to buy?
That's correct.
Did you then go shopping with him?
Yes, I did.
And did you advise him in the purchase of furniture?
Definitely. We did it together.
And were you aware of the fact that he purchased a pool table?
Yes.
And did he discuss that with you before he bought it?
Yes.
And did you approve that purchase?
Definitely. They always had a pool table.
The family always had a pool
Yes.
table? Now, to your knowledge, do you know what furniture, if any, Eric had moved from the Beverly Hills house to his apartment?
I know that he didn't want any furniture from the Beverly Hills house. I don't recall what furniture he had.
Do you know if he moved his bed?
Yes, that's right. I suggested him, that's right, that he should keep his bedroom because they were expensive and he loved water beds. That's what he wanted. So I had his water bed repaired, which had been broken for a long time.
Okay, let me back up. The question was,
Sorry.
I know, it's hard. Question was, did he have his bedroom furniture moved from the Beverly Hills house to his apartment?
Yes.
Did he have any other furniture from any other part of that house moved to his apartment?
No.
Did he take anything from any other part of the house to his apartment?
No.
And you advised him and assisted and helped him in purchasing all the other furniture for his apartment?
That is correct.
Now, you know that he had a roommate in that apartment?
Yes.
And did the roommate come with his own furniture?
The roommate had his own bedroom and his own desk.
And was that roommate a young man named Noel
Yes.
Nedley?
Yes.
He pronounced his name the way a girl pronounces
Yes.
his name? And were you aware of whether or not Eric lived with Noel Nedley before they moved together to the Marina City Club?
Yes, he stayed at his home for a certain period of time. I don't know how long, though. That was one of the places that he was staying at.
One of the places that Eric was staying at before he got the apartment?
That's correct.
Now, you are a financial planner, and you've been a financial planner, you're a stockbroker. Do you also manage money for clients?
Yes, I do.
And you were managing Eric's money for him?
That is correct.
Did he do any spending that you consider to be excessive or extravagant or equivalent to a spree?
No.
Objection calls for improper opinion. Just like myself.
Objection, sustain, the answer straight.
Did he do any spending for things for himself without consulting you?
Objection, lack of foundation.
If you know.
Yeah, that you
Your
know.
own knowledge
No, he
from
did not.
expenditures from
Other than a
accounts.
T-shirt or a pair of shorts.
Or
he
clothes.
did not. Exactly.
So anything that he purchased of any size, you knew about in advance?
That is correct.
Did you have a discussion with him about his spending habits, or strike that? Did he share with you his attitude about spending this money, the insurance money?
Objection calls for hearsay.
You can answer yes or no.
Yes.
And did he indicate to you what his state of mind was with respect to spending this money?
Yes, he did.
And what did he indicate?
He told me that he was very scared of managing money. He had no idea what to do with it. All he wanted to do was play tennis and be with somebody. He didn't want to be alone.
What do you mean by be with somebody?
He did not want to be alone. He wanted to have some company. He just didn't want to think.
Did he tell you that he was interested or enjoyed? Strike that. Did he tell you that that he enjoyed spending large sums of money?
No, not at all.
Did he tell you the opposite of that?
Yes, he told me that if he did inherit, he would give this money to the homeless kids that ran away from home.
Now, as far as you know, before the time that Eric and his brother were arrested, they had not inherited any of the money from the estate.
That is correct.
The only money they got.
That makes total sense that he would want to donate his money to kids that ran away from home, probably because they had crappy parents too. That makes total sense that he would be like, I don't want this money from my crappy father. And you know what? Let's use it for some good and turn it around and help some people who have some crappy situations similar to mine, except they left or they ran away or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That makes total sense to me as a victim that he would not want that money and to just say, get rid of it, give it to people who had rough childhoods, rough family life.
That was from this insurance policy that you made the claim on.
That is correct.
And as far as you know, the estate is still in probate. Nothing's finished with it.
That is correct.
Over the course of his life, had you ever observed Eric to be extravagant with money?
He never was.
Now, the things that he was doing, renting this nice apartment, buying this furniture, getting a Jeep Wrangler automobile, did that, based on your knowledge of the family and on his parents' spending habits with respect to the children, did that mark for you a change in lifestyle of any kind?
Not,
Overruled.
not at all.
Now, you had mentioned before in your testimony an individual named Mark Heffernan. Did you know him to be a tennis coach of Eric?
Yes.
And were you involved on some level in negotiating a contract with Mark Heffernan?
Yes, I was.
And do you remember when those negotiations with respect to that contract began?
Around October, November.
Of 1989?
That is correct.
And who first brought this issue to your attention about having a contract for Mr. Heffernan?
You mean who told me of the issue?
How'd you get involved in this?
Eric called me and told me that Mark Heffernan had suggested that he could do this, that he would work for him only and he would make sure that he got his training and his psychological things and on and on and on.
Okay, the minute you say a sentence with the word he in it for two different people, we got lost.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Eric called you.
That is correct.
And he told you that Mark Heffernan suggested that he, Mark Heffernan, would be available to work full-time with Eric.
That is correct. He told me that he had said that if he...
Who's he?
Mark had said that if Eric wanted, Mark would work for him only.
Okay. And was Eric calling you to tell you that he was going to do this or to ask your advice?
Eric asked me to come to California to discuss this with him.
And did you come?
Yes, I did.
Was this a different time than when you came to buy the furniture with him and to close the lease?
Yes, it was.
Now, when you got here, did you have discussions with Eric about why he now was wanting to do this full-time tennis thing?
Yes, I did.
Was it your understanding before his parents died that Eric was planning on going to college?
Yes.
Did he discuss that intention with you at the time of his graduation in June?
Yes.
And when you talked to him after his parents died, on this occasion, did he indicate he was not going to go to college?
No, he indicated that he was going to postpone to January going to college. I mean, to the next semester. It wasn't January. It's
The following year?
September, right, the fall.
And did he indicate to you why he was doing that?
Sustained.
Your Honor, it's being offered for a state of mind.
Objection sustained.
You were in touch with Eric on, I think you've told us, on like a daily basis from the time of the insurance money, which was September? Was it
Yes.
September? Through this period?
That's correct.
And did he seem in those daily contacts to be stable and secure and calm and confident and know what he was doing in life?
Objection, compound calls for improper opinion.
Sustained.
Or any of those things?
Same objection.
Objection
How
sustained.
did he strike you on the phone when you spoke to him?
Eric was completely lost. He would cry. He would claim that he was having these nightmares, horrible nightmares. He did not want to be alone. He was scared. He was very confused. He was totally lost. He had no idea what to do with himself.
And he expressed to you the fact that he didn't know what to do with himself?
Yes,
Did he express to you the fact that he didn't feel he could go to school and think?
that is correct. He told me that I wanted him to go to college and try to put his life back together that way among young people. And he told me he just couldn't concentrate at that time, that he just needed some time.
And did he indicate to you what it was about this notion of full-time tennis that appealed to him?
Objection, Judge.
Sustained.
Was it your understanding in your negotiations with Mark Heffernan that Mr. Heffernan would be controlling every moment of Eric's life?
Yes, it was.
Calls for conclusion on part of the case.
Objection sustained. The answer is correct.
Did Eric express to you a desire to have every moment of his life controlled? That's not offered for the truth, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Did you ever try to get Eric to come to Florida to live with you?
Yes,
Was that during this period of time?
yes.
And he refused?
He told me he wanted to play tennis. He wanted to be with Mark.
Now, did you today hand me this coffee-stained
Yes, I'm
copy?
sorry
of it?
about that.
Who spilled the coffee on the contract?
I did, in my office.
Okay, a long time ago, we hope?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, I need to mark this next to you.
Exhibit 188.
Mrs. Cano, what is that?
This is the contract that was drawn between Mark Heffernan and Eric, and indirectly with Lyle as well.
Okay, this is a contract to provide coaching services to both Lila and Eric.
Right.
And that's the contract that Mr. Heffernan signed.
That's correct.
And does this particular copy, in fact, bear Eric's signature and Mark's signature?
Yes, it does.
And to the best of your knowledge, was this particular draft of this contract prepared at the law offices of Stephen V. Goldberg?
Yes, it was. It was drawn between Steve and Mark's lawyer.
And was Mark's lawyer named Ronald Goldman?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
And do you remember now whether it was yourself or Eric who wrote the monthly checks for Mr. Heffernan that contract provided for?
They were alternated. Sometimes he wrote them, sometimes I wrote them. At the beginning, it was the estate that wrote them, and they had no money and no contract.
Well, the insurance money, though, came in September.
Right. But he kept on playing tennis with Mark before, I believe.
All right. But before there was a contract, he continued that Mark had been giving him hourly lessons. Was that your
Yes,
understanding?
That's right.
Do you recall Eric indicating to you why it was he felt it was necessary that he play tennis at that point in his life rather than do anything else?
Sustained.
That can be answered yes or no, Your Honor.
All right, you can answer that, yes or no.
Yes.
And whatever it was he said to you, did that make sense given your daily contacts with Eric?
In a way, yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor, but before the people cross-examine, I think they need to show me something.
You don't have it quite yet?
No.
All right,
I need to
well,
go look for myself, I think.
okay, well, how long is your cross going to be?
Oh, 10 minutes.
All right, we'll take a recess then until 3:30, ladies and gentlemen. Don't discuss this case. We'll resume at 2:30.
I don't know, that's supposed to be a 45-minute session, and
The arrival time would be
move it back a half hour, and I could feel comfortable.
more comfortable, like 11:30 then.
I've got to have some casting done on my foot, so I have to clean up.
All right, well, we'll work it out. It might be that we'll just take the morning off then, leave everybody the whole morning off. All right, we'll be in recess until 2. The jurors have left the courtroom, and you had better stop doing that, or the court's going to find you in contempt. Negatively when the court rules. The jurors have left the courtroom. Ms. Abramson, you tend to shake your head negatively when the court rules against you,
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
and you had better stop doing that, or the court's going to find you in contempt.
Well, the court may be finding me in contempt pretty soon anyway because I'm finding the court's rulings astonishingly biased.
Are you inviting the court to find you in contempt because you're indicating you're going to do contemptuous things?
No, I'm just saying there's only so much unfairness one can bear.
Well,
and
counsel,
I
if
can't promise
you
that I can't do it.
if you feel that you are going to be unable to behave professionally in a non-contemptuous fashion, we'll deal with that very effectively and deal with you and your conduct, and it is not going to work to the benefit of you or your client.
I understand that, Your Honor. We do the best we can.
Well, you had better behave professionally. I'm warning you at this time. Is that clear?
I heard you. Yes, indeed, sir.
It's something the court will take seriously if you misbehave.
I'm sure you will.
All right, then we'll be in recess, and you've heard what the court had to say.
Yes.
Wow.
All right, I believe we have everybody back in court. So
He is not much of a fan of Abramson, and I think he is quite unfair with a lot of the things that he's doing. Although I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand all the objections and everything, I do think that there are certain times where he favors the prosecution. But for the most part, I do think he's pretty fair.
all the jurors are present. The witness can get back on the witness stand, please. And this is cross-examination.
Mrs. Cano, I believe you indicated that you were responsible for filing the claim with Sun Life in order to get the proceeds of your brother's life insurance policy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you remember about when it was that you filed the claim?
On August 23rd, right from Live Entertainment office.
And I believe you've indicated that when the policy paid out, that the money was sent to you and you deposited it in the defendant's accounts at Smith Barney. Is that correct?
It could be at Smith Barney, it could be at United Jersey Bank. Either one of them was.
Well,
some money at Smith Barney and some money at United Jersey Bank.
Well, I believe it was your testimony on direct examination that the money was given to you and then you divided it up afterwards.
That is correct. United Jersey Bank was one of the places where I placed money.
And at the time that you made these transactions, was Eric Menendez in the same city that you were in? In other words, were you both in either the East or in California?
I don't recall that. I know that I require his signature on the check, probably, so I
All right.
recall that.
Do you remember what day it was that the Sun Life policy made the first payment?
No, I do not, but I know the amount.
All right, it was approximately $400,000 divided evenly. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. $200,000 each.
Okay. Your Honor, I have here at Exhibit 140. I'd like to approach the witness, please.
Yes.
I'm going to show you an affidavit of the custodian of records of Sun Life Insurance Company.
Sure.
And referring you to paragraph 6, I'd like to have you read that, and I'm going to ask you a question about paragraph 6. All right, now also, as long as I've got you up here, would you look at paragraph 7 as well? Affidavit of the custodian of records from Sun Life Assurance indicates that the money was wired directly to the United Jersey accounts. That is, the $400,000 was wired directly on September the 8th to 2 accounts in New Jersey, one for Eric Menendez and one for Lyle Menendez.
I don't recall that, to be honest with you. I have the check stubs of the checks that came in, and I have them in, I believe that I gave them to our lawyers.
May I approach, Your Honor? I have here a bank document which is not yet marked as exhibit. I'd like to show it to the witness to see what we found for recollection.
Okay.
I've shown it to counsel. I'm going to show you a check right here which is dated September the 11th. It's the amount of $50,000 to Smith Barney for Eric Menendez.
That's right.
All right. Does that particular check refresh your memory that, in fact, the money was transferred from the United Jersey account to Smith Barney?
But I believe this is the second money, though.
Well,
This is not the first money.
Well, this check is dated September the 11th, the one I just showed you, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, may this be marked as exhibit next in order?
189.
Thank you. May I approach again?
Yes.
You said that the check that I just showed you in Exhibit 189 represents the second payment, but
That's my recollection.
well, looking at the paragraph 7 of the affidavit of Ms. Bonina, it appears that the second payment wasn't made until September the 15th.
Could be. Could be. It doesn't really matter. I was controlling both of the accounts.
You were controlling both defendants' accounts.
Both of Eric's accounts. That is correct.
I believe you indicated that you wrote the check for the Jeep.
Yes, I did.
I have here.
I signed for Eric, if that's your question.
Okay, I have here Exhibit 138. I'd like to approach this, please.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that. I think that's misleading what counsel is going to do.
Well, at this point, she's just showing her exhibit. What exhibit is this?
It's Exhibit 138, the Jeep records.
Yes.
All right, now, were you actually with Eric Menendez the day that he signed this contract?
No, Steve Goldberg was.
And showing you the third page of the exhibit, it appears to be a check dated September the 21st of 89.
That is correct, but that check bounced.
All right, but this handwriting on this check is not yours.
No, it was his. I sent him the second check.
All right, and the second
So
check,
the real check that was paid was the check that I wrote.
Your Honor, I have here a copy of that check. Do counsel, may I mark it as the next exhibit?
Yes, go ahead.
Exhibit 190, please.
All right. If you can identify it some way. So.
This is a copy of a letter from Smith Barney with a check attached. It's check number 191. It's all Xerox.
For what amount?
The check is for $21,241.32. I'm going to show you Exhibit 190. Mrs. Cano, is this
Yes.
the check that you're referring to that you actually wrote?
That is correct.
And you wrote that check on January 26th of 1990.
That is correct.
But the check that Eric wrote was for September of 89.
I am aware of that.
I believe you indicated that you had full control of Eric's financial affairs during this period of time.
Yes, but it could be by phone. I mean, he had a checkbook with him the same way I had checkbooks with me.
So that the check that you actually wrote to the Jeep people was written approximately 4 months.
2-3 months after the check bounced and came back, he had not realized he did not have enough money on that account.
Move to strike everything after he did not realize this being non-responsive and culpable hearsay.
After that,
Yes, he did not realize. May that be stricken, please?
objection sustained. The answer is straight.
Now, the policy, the Sun Life Assurance policy, paid out on September the 6th approximately. Is that correct?
Around sometime in September, I don't recall what date.
When you had your conversations with them, did they ask you if the beneficiaries had been cleared of being involved?
What do you mean?
Your Honor, objection calls for hearsay.
Objection sustained.
Were you aware of the fact that generally life insurance policies do not pay out to people who are responsible for the death of the insured?
Objection, Your Honor, since fact is not in evidence.
Overruled.
Were you aware of that?
Depending on the situation.
Well, if someone is involved in the intentional killing of the person upon whose life the policy is issued, do life insurance, from your experience in the life insurance business, do those policies pay out to the beneficiaries?
Again, depending on the situation.
I'm going to object to questions called for legal conclusions regarding the witness's no qualifications.
You'd have to lay a foundation. Objection sustained. The answer is straight.
How long did you work selling life insurance?
I have been working since 1980.
And do you have a license to sell life insurance?
Of course I do.
Did you take any courses in order to become a...
Of course I do.
And did you receive any training in the propriety of issuing life insurance proceeds to people who are responsible for the death of the insureds?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And at the time that you obtained the payout on the Sun Life Assurance policy on September the 6th, were you aware that generally life insurance companies don't pay proceeds to people involved in crimes?
Your Honor, I'm still going to object to the questions calling for legal conclusions beyond the scope of the record, irrelevant.
Objection on the first ground. It would also relate to her knowledge of the policies or practices of this particular company.
Are you aware of the policies and practices of the Sun Life Assurance Company?
Yes, I am.
And did they have a policy that they paid life insurance proceeds to people who were responsible for the death of the insureds?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Did they have that policy?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did Sun Life Assurance Company have a policy that they would pay proceeds to people responsible for the deaths of the insured?
I have no idea.
So this policy paid out approximately 17 days after the death of your brother. Is that correct?
That is correct. They pay immediately. It's within 7 days that they is the usual and customary way of paying after the claim is placed.
Now, I believe you've indicated that you approved much of the expenditures that Eric Menendez made during the period of time before his arrest. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the pool table that you testified, did he consult with you in order to buy the pool table?
We talked about it.
Do you remember how much it cost?
Yes, around $8,000.
And did you personally pay for that pool table?
I don't think so.
The rent on the condominium that he was,
Objection, Your Honor.
I believe it was mentioned.
What was the question?
Rent on the
How much was the rent on the condominium?
All right, that has already been ruled upon.
Okay. Did you approve the purchase of a condominium by Eric Menendez?
Objection, Your Honor. Assumes facts and not in evidence.
Overruled.
He never wanted to purchase a condominium.
The furniture that was purchased by Eric Menendez, do you remember approximately how much money he spent purchasing the furniture?
I don't recall, but something around $8,000 as well.
And did you pay for that yourself?
No, we were together. He made the checks.
And I believe you've indicated that you approved the purchase of the Jeep for about $21,000.
That is correct.
How about the Rolex watch? Did you approve that?
I don't think it was Eric's idea of the Rolex watch.
You want to help the defendants?
No, I do not. I know that Lyle was buying a Rolex watch and insisted that Eric should have one too. I was present when that conversation happened.
You were present from what conversation?
When they were talking in Princeton, that Lyle wanted to go and buy a watch and convince Eric to go with him to buy one too.
When did this conversation take place?
Someplace in Princeton the week that Jose died.
After his death?
Yes.
Did the defendants go to Princeton between August the 20th and August the 24th?
Of course, we all did know, not on the 24th.
Okay, well,
Then I heard it in California. You have to admit that those were very confusing days for me too. So sometime I heard the conversation.
move to strike her answer everything after I have to admit as being non-responsive, Your Honor.
Overruled. The answer will stand.
Were you aware that Eric went on trips during the period of time?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
We haven't heard the question yet.
Did you
What's your question?
Did you approve the expenditure of money for Eric to take trips between the time of his parents' death and the time of his arrest?
I object to that, Your Honor, on the basis of 402.
Overruled.
There's no reason for me to object. He was traveling to play tennis and he was traveling to take things out of his mind.
I believe you indicated that Eric Menendez told you that he wanted to give money to the homeless.
Yes, he did.
Are you aware of whether or not he ever did give money to the
He
homeless?
never got the estate money.
Okay, but he did get approximately $350,000.
I'm sorry, but that's peanuts.
Pardon me?
That's peanuts beside the estate. That money was not an amount of money to create a foundation. You don't create a foundation with that amount of money. It's a very small amount of money.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the captions, she said that's peanuts compared to like everything else, but the closed caption said penis. That's why I'm laughing. So I'm sorry, I'm juvenile.
Homeless?
Yes, he did.
Are you aware of whether or not he ever did give money to the
He
homeless?
never got the estate money.
Okay, but he did get approximately $350,000.
I'm sorry, but that's peanuts.
Pardon me?
That's peanuts beside the estate. That money was not an amount of money to create a foundation. You don't create a foundation with that amount of money. It's a very small amount of money.
I believe you indicated that that they never got the estate. Is that correct? The estate was never probated to them. Is that
That
correct?
is correct. It hasn't
And-
finished yet.
And they got arrested, right?
Yes, it did.
I have nothing further, this witness.
Any redirects?
When Eric talked to you about the homeless, he was talking about establishing a charitable foundation
That is correct.
and about funding that foundation from monies that he would inherit.
That is correct.
And in your opinion, $350,000 would not be enough to fund a charitable foundation.
That is correct.
Now,
Plus, he couldn't put all the money on the foundation. He needed to live as well. So
okay.
Sustained. The last portion of the answer is stricken.
To the best of your knowledge, was there any other source of income for Eric besides the insurance money?
no,
And at the time of Eric's arrest, did he still have a substantial amount of that insurance money in accounts that you controlled?
yes, he did.
And in fact, wasn't the amount of insurance money that he still had used to pay the initial legal fees for both himself and his brother?
That is correct.
I want to show you a document, Your Honor. I'd like to mark this on 191.
191.
I've already shown this to counsel. Mrs. Cano, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Is that a memorandum that you received from Sun Financial Group following the telephone call that you placed to place the claim?
That is correct.
And does that document indicate that you made the telephone call to report the claim on August 23rd, 1989?
That is correct.
And is that the phone call placing the claim that you made from Jose Menendez's office at Live?
That is correct.
Now, does that memo was prepared by an employee at Sun Life?
Yes, in the home office.
And does that particular employee refer you to another claims person at Sun Life?
That is correct.
And is the claims person that memo refers you to the person whose affidavit Mrs. Bozanich showed you a little while ago, someone named Bonina?
That is correct. Paula Bonina. Paula Bonina. Bonina.
So you spoke to, what was the other woman's name?
Ellen Knott.
And you spoke to Ms. Knott on the 23rd?
That is correct.
And did you, subsequent to receiving that memoranda from Ms. Knott, speak to Paula Bonina?
Yes.
And did you, subsequent to the telephone call where you notified the claim, have to submit anything in writing?
Yes, I sent a fax, I believe, with the application, the copy of the application, which showed the boys as contingent beneficiaries, and I also have to send them the death certificates.
And do you know what date it was that you sent that fax?
I don't recall, but I'm sure that it was as soon as I could gather all the information together.
Now, showing you Exhibit 138 again that Mrs. Bozanich showed you. That's the packet, the copy of the purchase documents for the Jeep.
Yes.
Could you look and see what is the date of that purchase contract?
I can find it. Oh, I'm sorry. October 21st, 1989.
And is there a signature on a line that bears that date, a signature that looks like Eric's signature?
Yes, that's Eric's signature.
And does he sign in more than one place?
Yes, he signed in 4 places, right?
And are at least two of those signatures dated?
Yes,
He's signing on a dated line.
that is correct.
Now let's turn to the check, the one that bounced, as you put it. What's the date on that check?
September 21st, 1989.
And does that appear to be an error given the date of the crime?
Yes, Eric made a mistake.
Now, you said that Eric was not attempting to purchase a condominium. How do you know that?
Because I know as a fact that if he would, first of all, he told me, and secondly, if he would have, I know that I would have been part of it.
When you say he told you what?
He told me that his brother Lyle was buying a condo.
Overruled.
Told you his brother was buying a condo?
Yes,
And did he have a conversation with you about loaning money to Lyle for that purpose?
that is correct.
And was that in a telephone call?
Yes,
And was he specifically asking you in that phone call if there was enough money in his United Jersey bank account to cover a deposit check that he was lending to Lyle?
that is correct.
Overruled.
That is correct.
And to the best of your knowledge, did that deposit check that Eric wrote to loan Lyle money ever clear the bank?
No, they never went through with that operation.
And did you become aware of the fact that Steve Goldberg got involved and dissuaded Lyle from doing that?
Yes, I was aware of that.
Objection sustained. The answer is stricken.
Come on. So many objections.
Anything else by the prosecution?
Just a couple questions. I believe you indicated that Eric Menendez had no other means of support at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did he ever go get a job?
At the state of mind that he
No, no,
was,
The question is, did he ever go
I don't
get
know.
a job?
I don't know.
I thought you were involved in his financial.
Yes, but
affairs.
not job was never one of the issues, so I don't know. He might have. I don't know.
Now, where else did the legal fees? You indicated that he used the remainder of the money that he got from his father's death to pay legal fees. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
I believe you indicated that at the time of his arrest, that Eric Menendez used the remainder of the life insurance money he had from his father's death to pay his and his brother's legal fees.
Your Honor, that misstates the testimony. It was to pay the initial legal fees.
Right.
Objection
It was paid-
overruled.
The retainment was paid with that money.
And that was the criminal legal fees. Is that your understanding?
That is correct.
Do you know who paid for the rest of it?
No, object, Your Honor, it's beyond the scope.
Sustained.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. You're excused.
Your Honor, I would ask that she be subject to recall, please.
All right,
Yes.
you will be ordered to return upon notice by counsel.
Good.
All right. Is the next witness before both juries? Okay.
Ms. Cano, I want to direct your attention to a meeting that you had with Lyle and Eric Menendez.
All right, so she's back, and now it appears this is direct from Lyle's camp. So Leslie Abramson, who did most of the questioning for the defense so far on this video, was she's Eric's attorney. So I believe this, I can never remember his name or catch it when the judge or somebody says it. I think it's Mr. Bird or something like that. I believe he's for Lyle. I've tried looking up all the attorneys' names and I can't find it, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
On the Wednesday or Thursday following your brother's death. Do you know which meeting I'm referring to?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell the juries whether or not the meeting took place on Wednesday or Thursday, or whether you're sure about that?
I'm not sure which of the two nights, but I know it was one of those 2 evenings.
And can you tell us what the purpose of the meeting was?
Yes. The purpose of the meeting was to explain to them my findings at their father's office of the financial issues of their father.
And before the meeting, had you been to Jose Menendez's office?
That is correct.
And why had you been to the office?
Because I felt that someone in the family had to take care of Jose's pending business, and I called Marcy, his secretary, and asked her to come and get me, that I wanted to go and put a financial statement together for Jose.
And did you in fact do that?
Yes, I did.
And did you go to his office on more than one occasion?
Yes, I did.
And when you got down at the office, did you have certain documents that you took with you?
No, I did not have anything. I asked Marcy to help me in finding all Jose's personal files so I could gather together some information and have an idea of what Jose had pending that I might be of help.
And when, if ever, did you first tell Lyle or Eric Menendez that this meeting was going to take place?
I told them, I believe it's same Tuesday, I told them that I needed to talk to them. I did not specify why, and they sort of evaded me, and then I did the same thing again on Wednesday. I only saw them in the evening, early evening time after I left the office.
And was there a meeting beyond the meeting you're discussing that you were preparing for?
Yes, that's correct.
And was that a meeting, well, who was that a meeting with?
That meeting was on Friday after the memorial services, right at Live Entertainment with the chairman of the board.
And who was that person?
That's Peter Hoffman.
And why did you plan to meet with Peter Hoffman on Friday after the memorial service?
Because of my findings at the office of my brother, I realized that there were some benefits of my brother that I thought that they could be negotiated, and I wanted, because of the situation where the boys were left and all the speculations that were being done at the time that it could have been related to the business, I thought that I could get Peter to subsidize some of the losses of the benefits that my brother had based on the children and help them out that way.
And so did you arrange for this meeting on Friday with Peter Hoffman?
No, I arranged it on Thursday.
And did Lyle or Eric have anything to do with arranging that meeting with Peter Hoffman?
Not at all.
Did they know that such a meeting was planned to take place?
No,
on
they
Friday
did
night?
not.
Just speculation. We'll just start the end.
Objection sustained. The answer is stricken.
Did you inform either Eric or Lyle prior to telling them that you wanted to meet with them that you had planned a meeting with Peter Hoffman?
No, I did not.
And when you contacted Lyle or Eric Menendez concerning the meeting you wanted to have with them, did you have a telephone conversation with them about the purpose of the
No,
meeting?
we were all the family. When they came together, we were all the family together. So I just approached them and said, boys, I need to talk to you. It's very serious, and I need to get together with you privately. And they just evaded me all the time, and they were not interested in getting alone with me in any kind of conversation. So I had a hard time setting up that meeting.
And how is it that you finally did conduct a meeting with them?
Well, I insisted finally that it was very important that I had a meeting that I wanted to do with Peter Huffman, and that it was very important that they knew what the meeting was going to be all about, so it wouldn't go over their head, and I wanted them to be present as well.
And when you went to this meeting, where did the meeting take place?
I'm sorry, which meeting?
Where did the meeting take place with Eric and Lyle?
In their room at the Bel Air Hotel.
And was there anyone else present
No,
besides
there was
yourself,
not.
Eric and Lyle Menendez?
No, everybody was getting to get ready to go for dinner. We were gathering all together at the dining place normally for dinner.
And did you take any documents with you to the meeting?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the juries what documents you took with you?
Well, I did a rough financial statement of assets and liabilities of Jose, and I review all the insurance things, and I review all the benefits that were inside his contract, and basically put all that together to come up with some assets, the assets he owned and the assets that were speculated that he should own or whatever, put them all together to have a rough idea of what Jose was worth, so I could inform the boys. And at the same time, I also put some other information that I was going to present to Peter Huffman.
And prior to attending the meeting with Eric and Lyle, did you have knowledge of a life insurance policy that you, in fact, wrote for your brother?
Yes, I did.
And did you have that life insurance policy with you when you went to the meeting with Lyle and Eric on Wednesday or Thursday evening?
No, I did not. I called my office, and because I couldn't find it in Jose's files, and since I had a copy of it on the file, I faxed it directly to Sun Life when I did the claim for the boys.
Do you know when you submitted the claim to Sun Life?
Yes, I did. Wednesday.
And did either
Wednesday morning I did.
Did either Eric or Lyle Menendez have any contact with you in reference to submitting that claim?
No, not at all.
Was that something you did on your own?
That is correct.
And were you aware of the policy because you, in fact, were the person?
That's right. I'm the agent. Anyway, agents are the ones who do that normally, so I did not need to inform them about it. I knew it had to be done.
Could I put your witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you, Ms. Cano, what's been marked as Exhibit 140. Do you recognize that document as the insurance policy that you wrote for your brother?
Yes.
And was that policy written in 1987?
1986, I believe. I think it was September 1986. It says issue date January 87, but I wrote it in September 86.
And physically, that policy was located where after the death?
Well, the application copy was in my files in Florida, in West Palm Beach, Florida. This actual policy, I don't know where it came from. I would imagine it came from Sun Life, or we never found it.
And showing you what has been marked previously as Exhibit number 181. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Just tell the juries what that document is, please.
This is a document that I roughly prepared of Jose's assets to show the boys and to myself find out what Jose owned, etc.
And Exhibit number 182?
This is a financial statement that I found on Jose's files, which I used to lead me sort of where to find or what to look for when I did my own financial statement.
Did you find 182 prior to the meeting with Lyle and Eric Menendez?
I'm sorry?
Did you find that document prior to your meeting with Lyle?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I asked Marcy about this, and she told me not to believe it too much because she knew that Jose had inflated it.
I just have to strike what Marta said as being hearsay.
Okay.
Objection sustained. Everything after yes is stricken as non-responsive. Your next question, please.
Thank you. And Exhibit number 183. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I did this to show Peter Huffman how many liabilities of taxes the boys would be having, and in order to help me in my negotiation.
And is that a document that you had with you when you met with Lyle and Eric on Wednesday or Thursday?
I am not sure if I had this one or if I did it. That's why I'm not sure if I saw them Wednesday or Thursday. I know I did this one on Thursday before the meeting, but I'm not sure if I had that one.
And 184?
Yes, I did this exactly to discuss with the boys. These are the different issues that I wanted to talk to them about.
And that's a piece of paper that says on the top, issues to discuss.
That is correct.
And along the side, there are various issues.
That is correct.
And 185, do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is another document that I found on Jose's personal financial file. And there's a letter, and then it's just another financial statement that he had prepared for a bank.
Now, prior to attending this meeting on Wednesday or Thursday, were you also aware of a will that your brother and his wife had executed back in 1981?
Yes, I was. I was a witness on that will.
And did you have that will with you when you went to this meeting on Wednesday or Thursday
No, I did not.
that you were aware of?
I was aware of what the will had, definitely.
And on exhibit number 184, your one-page sheet, which says issues to discuss, one of the issues you have on here to discuss is the estate.
That is correct.
Did you, in fact, discuss that issue with Lyle and Eric Menendez when you had this meeting?
Very briefly, because they really did not want to listen to what I had to say. I was able to jot a couple of things to them. They just discarded the whole issue, and they told me they were not the beneficiaries of that they were out of the will.
And do you recall what topic you discussed first in this meeting with them?
I don't recall exactly what's the topic that I discussed first. The first thing I told them is that I had been at their father's office and that I had been putting together their assets and liabilities, and immediately Lyle interrupted me and said, "Aunt Marta, we're not in the will." And I said, "What do you mean you're not in the will? Of course you're in the will." He says, No. Then Eric said, "No, Aunt Marta, our dad took us out of the will over a year ago." And I said, "No, you're not. I remember, and you were in the will. I was a witness, and I know you are the beneficiaries of this money." So that was the beginning of the whole discussion back and forth of them trying to convince me that they had nothing to do with this. And I told them, well, whatever it is that you think you are or not, I do know that you are the beneficiary of the life insurance because I wrote that and I would know if you were changed.
Let me
Yes.
break this down a little bit. Did you mention your estimate of the value of the estate?
Yes, I did.
And did either Lyle or Eric react in any way to your statement of what the value of the estate,
Yes.
was?
Yes, they did.
And who reacted? And what
Eric was the
reaction?
first one to say, I can't believe my father had so much money.
And what, if anything, did Lyle say in response to that?
Lyle just looked at me like not believing what I was saying. He was really pretty distrustful at the time.
And did you also discuss the life insurance policy that you had written for your brother, the Sun Life life insurance policy?
I began to tell them about the life insurance, and they again interrupt me. I believe it was Eric, and said, and Marta, that insurance was never done. My father never took the physical.
And did you know what he was referring to when he said his father had never taken the physical?
Well, I figured that it was because I had already had a conversation at Life in reference to the $5 million policy, and I explained to him that I wasn't talking about life contractual benefit insurance. I was talking about another life insurance that I had written for their father, and I knew they were the beneficiaries.
So you started talking about the Sun Life policy, correct?
That is correct.
And at the time you were talking about the Sun Life policy, there was also, to your knowledge, another insurance policy on your brother?
It was supposed to be based on his contract, a $5 million policy, which apparently Jose never took the medical, therefore was never done.
And when Eric Menendez said that his father had not taken the physical, did you know or believe what life insurance policy he was referring to?
Yes, I knew he was referring to the $5 million policy because Marcy and everyone at the office had already told me that, and we had had some kind of discrepancy on that.
And from anything that either Lyle or Eric said, were they aware, to your knowledge, of the existence of the Sun Life policy that you had written back in '86 or '87?
No, they had
Objection,
not.
calls for speculation on part of the witness.
Objection sustained. The answer is true.
Can you tell me what, if anything else, you said about the Sun Life insurance policy, other than what you've already indicated?
I explained to them what I was talking about. I explained to them that there was a life insurance policy that I had originally written for their father many years ago, and I had converted to a higher policy back at the end of 1986, and that I knew they were the contingent beneficiaries on that policy.
And did they respond that they knew it as well?
They asked me what policy was I talking about, how much was this policy for, and they said, are you sure we are the beneficiary? And Marta, my father told us out of the will, and I said, not on this one because I would know. I definitely would know on this one because I'm the agent.
And did you also have further discussion about the $5 million policy that had been issued by the company, or supposedly was going to be issued by the company?
At that point, I started talking to them what I was going to present to Peter Hoffman, and among them, I was going to make a claim to replace the $5 million policy, which was never done, but that I felt that the company had an obligation to them on a figure like that, whether it was in other kinds of benefits or what have you, but I did feel that the company was liable on not having pursued that Jose did take this policy from his contract. That was part of his contractual employment.
And what, if anything, did Lyle or Eric Menendez say in response to that suggestion?
They continued telling me that they were not on the will, that they were not the beneficiaries, so they really weren't, they were sort of discarding me. They were not interested in what I was talking about.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor? That's all I have. Yes.
Actually, maybe we take our recess right now so we can look at these exhibits.
How long is your examination?
It'll be about 10 minutes. Can we just have a brief recess, like a 5-minute recess?
Let me see counsel here so we have some idea of the schedule first. Resume with the examination of the witness, cross-examination.
Thank you. Mrs. Cano, I believe you testified in direct examination that you believe that the meeting that you had with your two nephews occurred on either Wednesday or Thursday of the week after your brother and sister-in-law were killed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you remember testifying at a previous hearing that it was your best recollection that it was on Thursday that the meeting occurred?
I testified to both. I testified that I wasn't sure if it was Wednesday or Thursday, and when I was pressed to try to pinpoint one, I said, well, maybe it was Thursday, but I'm not sure which of the two nights it was.
Directing court and counsel to volume 74, the testimony on August 23rd of this year, page 12,450.
Pages.
Line, do you have it? Okay, line 20, question. And your best recollection of when you had the meeting with the defendants was on Thursday night, is that correct? Answer, I believe so.
If you check the previous several questions, you will see what I'm referring to.
Okay, so you have, in fact, reviewed this transcript before testifying today, is that
I
correct?
sure have.
All right. You understand that the day on which you had the meeting with the defendants may make a difference, is that correct?
I don't think it makes a difference. I don't see why it would make a difference either Wednesday or Thursday.
Do you know that on Thursday afternoon that your nephews bought 3 Rolex watches at the Century City Shopping Mall?
I wasn't aware it was Thursday, but it still wouldn't make a difference if I met with them Wednesday or Thursday. I don't see why you would refer to the difference. They didn't buy it with the estate money. They bought it with a card.
With a credit card?
Yes, but not from the estate.
So although you testified on August the 23rd that your best recollection was that it was Thursday, it's now your testimony, and sometimes your testimony before, that it was Wednesday or Thursday that you had the meeting with the defendants. Is that
I
correct?
think it's the same thing I said before. If it was Thursday evening, it could have been Thursday evening. It could have also been Wednesday evening. If I'm going to be really honest, I have to say that I'm not sure either one. If you ask me which of the two, if you pinpoint me, maybe it was Thursday, but I really don't know.
May I approach, please, Your Honor?
What?
May I approach, please, with exhibits 183 and 184?
Yes.
I believe you testified in direct examination today that exhibit 183, which is a list of assets, liabilities, taxes due, and then net and monthly payments, is a document which you prepared on Thursday, following the death of your brother and sister.
Could be Thursday. I do believe, my recollection, this is the last one I did, so I probably did it Thursday morning.
All right, and I believe that in prior testimony you gave that you visited your brother's office on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in order to get an accurate picture of his financial situation.
That is correct.
I believe your testimony is that Exhibit 184, which is an exhibit entitled Issues to Discuss, it was a list of things that you prepared, and for what purpose did you prepare Exhibit 184?
That was specifically for the boys. That was for Eric and Lyle. These are the situations that I wanted to talk to Eric and Lyle about.
Okay, so the issues to discuss were not for any meetings with people at live entertainment, but rather was for the purpose of your discussion with your nephews.
No, it's for both. I mean, I prepared for them, but of course the information there I was going to use as well in my meeting with Peter Hoffman. This is what I wanted them to be aware of before the meeting, but of course these are issues that I was going to talk about in the meeting.
And is it your recollection that you had Exhibit 184 with you at the time that you met with the defendants to discuss their financial situation?
That one, yes, I did.
Now, I believe you indicated that they, meaning the defendants, were not anxious to meet with you or didn't want to discuss finances or something to that effect. Do you recall your testimony
Yes,
earlier?
it had nothing to do with finances because they didn't know that that's what I was going to do. They just didn't want to meet with anyone of the family privately. I got that feeling anyway.
Okay. And would it be your testimony then that you only had one meeting with the defendants before the memorial service in Los Angeles dealing with the issue of assets and liabilities and those kinds of things?
That is correct.
And that meeting, now to your best recollection, was either Wednesday or Thursday night?
That is correct.
Okay. And you had Exhibit 184 with you in preparation for the meeting with your nephews, correct?
This is 184, yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, I believe you indicated on Friday, after the memorial service, that you had a meeting with executives from Live Entertainment. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that meeting occurred at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
That is correct.
Aside from being at your brother's office on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to check into his assets and liabilities, had you had any other meetings with any of the executives at Live Entertainment before the meeting you had at 1 o'clock on Friday, the 25th of August?
I did. Well, they came in. I was at my brother's office, and they would come in and say something to me constantly, different people. So I don't know if you call that meetings, but I do remember meeting, and I don't recall if it was the day before or the same day, but I do remember meeting with David, with the two Davids, before meeting with Peter Hoffman. I don't know if we were waiting for Peter or if it was the day before. I can't recall that, but I do know I met with them for a few minutes before.
Now, by the two Davids, do you mean David Campbell and David Mishra?
That is correct.
And it's your best recollection at this time that you met with the two Davids either the Thursday or the Friday of that week?
That's what I recall. I know I met with them, but I think it was one of those 2 days. I can't exactly tell you, but I think that's my best recollection is one of those 2 days.
Now, the meeting on Friday with Peter Hoffman, was Roger Smith at that meeting?
I don't think so.
Were the defendants at that meeting on Friday after the memorial service?
Yes, they were.
Okay, and had you had any other meetings with your nephews at Live Entertainment or discussions with Live Entertainment executives with your two nephews prior to the 1 o'clock meeting on Friday, the 25th of August?
No. I know that we were together waiting for Peter to come in, and maybe that's what you're talking about. The only people that were present in the meeting were Carlos Baralt, Peter Hoffman, David, not David, Dave, you tell me the two last names, I tell you which one.
Campbell or Mishra?
Campbell. David Campbell, and the two boys and I. That's what I recall.
And that is the meeting on Friday at 1 o'clock on August the 25th?
That's correct. That was during the reception. The reception was happening at Live.
During that meeting, was there any discussion about the $5 million life insurance policy that was part of your brother's compensation package?
Your Honor, at this time I'm going to object this beyond the scope and calling for hearsay.
Well, the question itself does not call for the substance of the conversation, just whether such a conversation occurred.
But this also
And
agrees beyond the scope.
objection overruled on that ground, since the subject has been raised.
I don't recall, but I am. It's part of what I wanted to discuss about, but I'm not sure that we talked specifically of that.
I believe you indicated that you received information that your brother had not taken the physical, which was necessary to put in force the $5 million policy.
That is correct.
Where did you receive that information from?
Different sources. It was told to me by the controller. It was told to me by Marcy, and of course afterwards it was confirmed by the boys.
Before you spoke to your nephews about this fact,
Yes.
had you had any prior discussions with them about whether or not your brother had taken the physical? In other words, you had a meeting with your nephews on Wednesday or Thursday night at which this subject was broached, the $5 million in the physical, correct?
That's correct.
Had you had any prior discussions with your nephews before this meeting?
my nephews? No.
About the physical for the $5 million policy?
No, not with my nephews.
Okay, so the first time that you became aware that they had knowledge about the $5 million policy and the physical was during this meeting you had with them in preparation for the meeting you had on Friday, August the 25th.
That is correct.
Now, I believe you indicated that during this meeting with your nephews, you had a state of mind that your brother had written a will which had left his estate to his sons in the event that his wife predeceased him or died at the same time, correct?
Yes, that was a will done in the past.
And at the time that you had this discussion on Wednesday or Thursday of that week, had you seen a copy of the will since the death of your brother and sister-in-law?
No, I had not. I did have one in my files at home, at my office in Florida, but I had not looked at it.
Now, when you came into town, I believe you came to Los Angeles on Monday, the 21st of August. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you came into town, did you bring a copy of the will with you?
No, I did not.
I believe it's your testimony that the following day, which was Tuesday, the 22nd of August, you began your search at your brother's office to look for his assets and liabilities.
That is correct.
Were
It
you
was
asked-
mid-morning, Tuesday.
Were you asked by anyone to do that?
No, as I stated before, there was a call coming in. Carlos and all the men had left looking for the safe deposit to see if they could find the will or what have you. And I was with my sister Terry. Terry answered the phone, and it was a call from the brokerage firm. And when that margin call came about, that's when I realized that what am I doing here sitting and crying? I have to go and try to put things together for Jose because there might be some issues that need to be resolved. I did it on my own. I just called Marcy and told her to come and pick me up.
And that was Marcy Eisenberg, your
That is correct.
brother's secretary at the
Yes.
time of his death, correct? And did she in fact come and get you on that Tuesday and take you to live entertainment?
Yes, she came on a limo to pick me up.
Did she come
Did we hear from the secretary, the assistant, Marcy? I would love to hear what Marcy knows about Jose and his relationship with the boys and Kitty and how he treated them. If Marcy knows, because Marcy knows a lot, being the assistant to him, she probably knows a whole lot.
come and pick you up on any of the other days to take you to live entertainment to continue your search?
Yes, she did. She picked me up every single morning.
I believe you indicated that you told the defendants what your estimate was of the estate of your dead brother. Do you remember your testimony?
Yes.
And what figure did you quote them?
Well, I quote them on a gross basis around 14 million.
And you say that they expressed a surprise at that amount, is that correct?
Honestly, not only surprised, they were not even interested in what I was talking about. They said, Marta, we're not in the will. They just did not. The only surprise that I heard is when Eric said, I can't believe my father had so much money.
Had you ever stayed at your brother's home in Beverly Hills prior to his death?
Yes,
Okay, do you know how much he paid for that home?
I know now. I didn't know at the time.
Do you know how much he paid for that home?
I think it's approximately around $5 million.
Now, during the week that you were, well, the 4 or 5 days that you were in Los Angeles before the memorial service, did you ever go to your brother and sister-in-law's home for the purpose of searching for any assets or liabilities in the home?
No, I did not.
Did you ever go to the home at all during that period
No,
of
I
time?
did not.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Any redirect?
Was the $14 million figure that you mentioned an accurate figure? Do you know?
It was inaccurate, yes.
Accurate or
Inaccurate.
Inaccurate.
That's correct.
And did you also mention a net figure as
Yes, I
well?
did.
And do you know what that figure was?
Talking about the conversation with the two defendants?
Yes, Your Honor. In this conversation with
Yes,
the two defendants.
the
did
net figure was around 7 or 8 million. I can't recall right now which one of the two. But
and
it's-
those were your computations?
that was
8
my
million?
computation based on all the gatherings that I did at his office.
And was that also accurate or inaccurate?
It was inaccurate.
Both those figures were
That is
inaccurate.
correct.
And they expressed surprise as to both those figures?
Yes.
You were asked whether you stated in prior testimony, in answer to the question, your best recollection of when you had the meeting with the defendants was on Thursday, and your answer, I believe so. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, I do.
You also remember being asked this question. Do you remember when that discussion was? And this is at page 12422, line 15. Do you remember being asked this question? Do you remember when that discussion was? And your answer, that it was either Wednesday night or Thursday night. I don't recall which of the two nights, but I'm definitely sure that it was before Friday, which was the memorial.
That is correct.
And is that still your testimony?
That is correct.
Bam, clear that up right there. That is like, it's not that hard. Like, she made it so difficult, Miss Bazanich. And then we get to the redirect. Sorry, that was redirect. I keep forgetting to switch that up. And we get to redirect, and he clears it up in just a few questions by restating her testimony. The part that Ms. Pam Bazanich didn't want to read. So he cleared that up really easily. So this might not be the last time we hear from her, but this is it for now. So next time, the most anticipated is, well, at least for me, one of the most anticipated witnesses, dun, da, 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 Judalyn Smith. We've heard so much about her. So in the next episode, we are going to be going over her testimony and what she has to say about Dr. Dr. Oziel, who weaseled his way out of every single question laid to him by the defense. He just didn't want to answer. So that's going to be what's up next. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these double features. If I do like the shorter videos and then do a couple double headers, double features for the day instead of making these really, really long videos, I'll just have one run into the other, and it's easier for me, I think, only because I have to tend to dogs who can't go very long without a potty break. Well, I shouldn't say that word. Without a POTTY break. And also with my chronic condition, it hurts to sit up. So sitting hurts, and just, yeah, I'm in pain a lot too because I normally I get Remicade infusions for my autoimmune disease, and for whatever reason, the insurance wanted, or my doctor wanted to do, he switched me up from Remicade to uh, the generic version, which I think is Inflectra, and now it took like 2 more weeks. I had to cancel my last appointment, so I've been going 2 extra weeks without my Remicade, and it sucks because my all my joints are really achy, and my fingers, every single knuckle of my fingers, my toes, they get swollen and painful. I'm having like shooting pains in my arms and hips, and it's real fun. Anyways, you guys don't care about that, but maybe you do. Maybe you guys relate. Maybe you guys have relatable conditions that you struggle with. And if you do, my heart goes out to you because it's a struggle. Every day is a struggle. Anyways, all right. So again, let me know what you think in the comments below about these split up videos, just because it's easier for me to do shorter videos, but then give you guys like a double feature so you get a longer portion of trial that day. Anyways, I hope you guys like it. I hope, I'm trying something new because it's difficult for me to sit for such a long time for these. Some of these are like 5 hours long. So this one was. So that's why I split it up. So hopefully that's okay with you guys. All right. I will see you guys next time. I'm looking forward to Judalon Smith and what she's got to say, the mistress of Dr. Oziel, coming up next. So stay tuned. Please make sure that you are subscribed and don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.
If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.